Welcome back, gamers, to the Quiet Part YouTube channel. In today's, and probably several days long stream, we have a couple of goals. This is my screen above me, right above me right now. This is House of Representatives bill something something. This is Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Today is May 24th, 2025. This bill officially passed the House of Representatives, meaning that next it would need to go through the Senate, and then finally it would come to Donald Trump's desk where he could sign it into law and begin as the executive branch executing on the law that these documents put forth. Now that it is effectively halfway to being reality, much like with Project 2025, I find it incredibly important to actually sit down and read the horrible thing, even if you don't want to. This channel is called The Quiet Part because it is about saying aloud things that are going unnoticed. And every time the right-wing administration puts out one of these types of documents, their hope is that you don't read it. Their hope is that you don't actually read it word for word. Their hope is that it's too big and too grand and too bureaucratic for a normal citizen to ever notice or pay attention to, because the entire bill is just one giant go fuck yourself. Let's introduce the bill. The official name of the bill is let this bill be called the One Big Beautiful Bill. Let's see. It looks like that this was officially published on May 15th, 2025 at 7:46 a.m. This is a bill. I don't know. This is just formatting for how the government does their stuff. Okay, and now, be it enacted by the whatever.
Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives.
We're going.
TIVs of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1. Short title. This act may be cited as the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yep.
Act.
Dude, what a name.
SEC.
There's so much we could say about that alone. All right, we're clicking
Sector
new game, confirm.
Short title.
So the short title for this is Big Beautiful Bill Act. By the way, Fallout 4 is a game. I played it before. I'm not going to pay attention to any of the story in this run, even though I love story in games. The point is to, like, speedrun it. I mean, so far, it's been very predictable. I went through the table of contents, and the table of contents just outlined everything you could imagine. Medical care, our military and Department of Defense. The theme is that if spending can be reduced somehow, it will be, no matter how that hurts a normal person. And if money can be essentially tossed to the wealthiest and business leaders, that's what's going to happen.
First place it appears.
So this entire section is about essentially crop insurance and ways in which the federal government subsidizes farmers. I'm not noticing anything super glaring that seems particularly bad for everyone involved. Subsidizing farmers is how the U.S. works. I guess from an environmentalism standpoint, the monocrop agriculture that the United States relies on is not a good thing. I'd much rather see, rather than continuing the current system, I'd much rather see money being put into making it so cities and households are encouraged to do their own farming, essentially like effective urban gardening and household gardening. I'd much rather see money go into that. So I'm going to be honest, I'm probably just going to lock in and not say a lot during the whole farming aspect of this because I don't understand the math of the farming. I've always known that farmers have to do an impressive amount of math and thinking about the federal subsidies and whatnot, but I didn't. I don't know much else. Cottons, refunds for... So it's so interesting how much effort they're willing to put into, like, oh, you happen to have a drought. I'm sure that happened for completely unexplainable reasons. Let's just help you deal with that instead of, trying to work on... Obviously, I think drought insurance should make some sense. I don't know. It's complicated, but obviously the droughts are becoming increasingly common. They're increasing the amount of surface area of which they affect, and that is a consequence of ongoing climate change. All right, I'm skipping around too much. I need to Just deal with listening to farm nonsense forever. Feral swine eradication. Oh, yeah, the United States does have an actual issue with wild hogs, wild pigs. And I can't remember what the history is, like, biologically, but I think we've been raising pigs for a long time. Worldwide, pigs have been raised, and I think the United States, North America, already had wild hogs, which are some big freaking pigs with some tusk, and they're, like, super intense. And they also reproduce super quickly, and they take over the environment. I think what happens is, or has happened, is that the wild hog population and the farm pig population have, like, crossbred, and so, like, wild hogs are just getting bigger and healthier, and they also still reproduce really freaking quickly. So $50 million for each fiscal year for the period of the end. Whoa, $700 million. God, we're talking nearly billions. I'm just going to go through some of these. These are billions amounts. So weird. It looks to me that they're not defunding a lot of these rural programs that involve the conservation of land, dealing with the wild hogs and how they destroy farmland, and then also even waterways and their safety. Section 20,001, enhancement of Department of Defense resources for improving the quality of life for military personnel. Improving quality of life for military personnel. So improve the barracks, restoration and modernization of military unaccompanied housing, so solo housing, for defense health programs. So we can offer $2 billion for the health program when you're actively in the service, even though we are not actively fighting a hot war right now. $3 billion to supplement the basic allowances for housing payable to members. Yeah, this is such a classic example. Just to sort of win over the right, we're willing to put billions and billions and billions of dollars into subsidizing the housing and health care of soldiers. But you can't do that for the public. Absolutely not. It's very much worth our money when it's for soldiers. Like, it always economically is sustainable when it's for soldiers. But for the public, it's always suddenly magically not worth the money, even though the thing you're paying for is just people's well-being. Like, what is the logic? Oh, well, we get, the protection of our country out of them. The United States is such an overpowered military that we don't need a quarter of the crap that we do. $100 million for childcare. Again, I could have sworn. It's so interesting. There's something so deeply statist about putting billions and billions of dollars into making your quality of life better if you serve the government. If you serve the government's violent efforts, you will get billions of dollars subsidized to make your quality of life better. But if you don't serve the government and instead you just exist under it and don't agree to swear by it and kill for it or be killed for it, you are undeserving of such things. Again, I have nothing against the idea of providing people housing. Fuck yeah. Provide veterans housing. Also provide everyone housing. Provide everyone childcare. It's one of the craziest things to see the right be so obsessed with natalism and like the social reproduction of white supremacy by virtue of white people having large families, pregnancies, and births. It's crazy to see their hyperfixation on natalism and then see that they don't want to subsidize childcare, the thing that like deeply incentivizes people starting and having families. If you can't afford childcare because both parties have to work full time, so either you fix their income by being pro-union and fixing wages and fixing rent prices, literally rent fixes, like ceilings for how much rent can cost in a given area, or you make childcare more accessible. Either way, like, people aren't going to have kids if they can't afford to both work and then have all the money from both working go into childcare. $450 million for application of autonomy and artificial intelligence to shipbuilding? AI just for building the ships? We're not talking about like building like water drones with AI. We're talking about You need $500 million to put AI that builds the ships. $500 million for the adoption of advanced manufacturing techniques in the maritime industrial base. I feel like that almost has more meaning. I'm not sure what dry dock capability means. I don't know. What does that mean? Like our docks and their ability to like rebuild stuff? Oh, a dry dock is where you build the ship before putting it out. Cold spray repair technologies. Cold spray repair technologies. What? Additional maritime industrial workforce development programs. $750 million. $750 million for supplier development? $4.6 billion for one fucking submarine? Oh my god! It costs like... What is that? That's like 10% of the budget to feed every child in America for a year. One submarine. If we had 10 of those, we could feed every child in America for a year. Oh my, every public school child in America. Oh my god. Wait. The next one is $5.4 billion for more ships. Between those two alone, you could feed a quarter of all school children in America. You could feed them breakfast and lunch. A quarter of all school children in America for a year. For the cost of that singular submarine and that singular ship. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with... What world do we live in? I don't fucking know what to say to that. What do you say to that?
16, $4 billion,
I'm smiling, but like I'm just freaked out. That's just insane.
Virginia class. Submarine in fiscal year 2027.
I don't know. I just don't know.
17, $5.4 billion for 2 additional guided missile destroyer (DDG) ships.
Oh my god. Oh, for 2. So it's 2 ships and 1 sub.
For advanced procurement.
For the cost of 2 ships and 1 sub,
ship medium.
You could feed a quarter of all American school children for an entire year. Not for a day, for a year. A school year.
For procurement of land.
I'm just so fucking pissed.
ING ship Rhine Corps operations.
Why are we putting so much effort into developing VTOLs when there are people who can't eat? I don't... I'm chill. I'm normal, actually. I'm actually normal right now. So normal. Completely unbothered.
33,
oh, why? How? I don't even want to do the math. I don't even want to do the math on how bad this is.
Development and testing of maritime robotic autonomous systems.
What do you mean?
Enabling technology.
Oh, this is the kind of money that would change a city, that would change a community. If you just, if you just gave $250 million to like a random town, it would have an incredible impact on people's lives. And here we are looking at wave-powered unmanned underwater vehicles. What is wrong with you?
Tie-in and integration of wave-powered unmanned
What do you mean you need wave-powered unmanned underwater vehicles?
36, $2 billion.
And is that worth $250 million? Listen, if I were a warmonger, this would be cool as fuck. And like, I get that some people's special interest are military equipment, but no, they're not special interest enough to me not want to have health care. Nothing is special interest enough to make me feel that way.
$300 million for classified military space.
Classified military space superiority programs.
Run by the strategic capability.
Every single line item for the past 3 pages has been the kind of thing that would change a community forever. Not a small community, a big community of people. It would change their lives forever, materially make a difference. You know what? 1 second. You know, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this as a joke real quick. Just real quick. I'm gonna just look at the billions. Okay, just look at the billions real quick for the past few pages. Okay, 21 just in the last like 3 pages, and I skipped all the hundreds of millions. I only rounded up. Because I didn't want to do the hundreds of millions. It was too much math. I only looking at the figures in the past 5 pages.
$400 million for expansion.
Okay, only looking at the billion-dollar figures from the past 4 pages, completely disregarding all the hundreds of millions of dollars throughout the prior pages. That is 21 billion. I don't even know if I can do this freaking correctly in my head. Oh, this is insane. Okay, the population of Denver in 2023 was about 716,000. Seattle is about the same. Yeah, it's about the size of Seattle. So for a Seattle or a Denver-sized city, if you took only the billions of dollars from the past 5 pages and you distributed it between every individual person in the entire city, that would come out to $29,329 per person. For the cost of some battleships and a couple of submarines and some stupid investments, disregarding all of the hundreds of millions and only looking at the billions for the past 5 pages, you could give every single person in your local state's big city, not a New York-sized city or Los Angeles-sized one, but your like local like big city, Columbus, Ohio, Seattle, kind of Denver, you could give every person $30,000. You could give everyone in your town the equivalent of a down payment for their house. And in 5 pages. Could you imagine if every single person in your city was given $30,000? Like, just thinking about someone I know. I'm going to think of someone I know right now. Okay, cool. I'm thinking about one of my coworkers. I'll try to tell you which one it is for their own privacy. I'm thinking about one of my old coworkers. It's a person. They're married. A couple of kids. They already have a house. But they got a big mortgage to pay off. They got childcare. They got all this. Car payments. If you drop $30,000 in those people's laps, it would make a life-changing difference to those people. And that's a true middle-class family, which right nowadays, that's more like upper middle class. Being able to have a house and a couple of kids is upper middle class. The real middle class is people that can't have kids, that are still renting. And then lower middle class is a hair's breadth from homelessness nowadays. I feel like I'm losing it. Like, I actually feel like I'm going insane because literally they could just chill it slightly on a couple of aircraft carriers, some submarines, a bunch of missiles, and like mathematically just those alone couldn't take care of the entirety of the 330 million people that live in America, but maybe it's 350 now, I can't remember, but we have 300 something million people here. No, not those alone couldn't house everyone, but just a few of those things that you could list in one sentence could like house an entire city, an entire town. You could throw a dart onto a board of America and you could be like, okay, I'm going to round up one budget for this year's missiles, one aircraft carrier, one Virginia-class submarine, another submarine. You could list those 4 things. You could write them on the back of a dart. You could throw the dart at a board in America, and you could house everyone in that city just by getting rid of those few things. It doesn't make any sense. It's actually insane. One-way attack unmanned aerial systems with advanced drones. You're talking about drones that are carrying explosive payloads whose job is to suicide bomb the drone, which isn't living, into a target. Cool. 50 million for drones that kill themselves. Love it. Why? We could be fixing Alzheimer's and dementia right now. Why? Oh, it's to keep America safe. America is safe, dude. We could stop paying for our military for like 10 years and still have plenty of money. Especially compared to all the other damn countries. Oh, more hypersonic missiles. That'll fix the lead in our water pipes. We just need another solid rocket.
MH-139 helicopters.
What does my character look like? Dumb? Yeah, I love it.
In addition to amounts otherwise available.
Okay, this is like a little too important. So, the whole like edging nuclear war thing is not. Oh my God! It's not reactionary. It's not alarmist. It's like written out in one page, and it says like right there that we want to get really good at using nukes. And then in Project 2025, and it was something that like I kept talking about, but I kept never hearing anyone else mention, was that the Project 2025 document is riddled with references to starting a violent war with China. Like, yes, it's talking about an economic and a cultural war and you know, a war about projecting power, but it talked about it and framed it in such a way that sounded very much like there was an interest in having a hot, violent war with China. It was as if the United States was just begging China to give us any reason to start a violent war where we infiltrate and colonize them. And then, you know, just reading pages and pages of like, here's how we're going to get better at deploying nuclear arms more quickly. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't know. This is just extremely dangerous and stupid and anti-human, and I hate all of it.
Fiscal year 2020. Maximum annual amount of federal direct unsubsidized Stafford loans.
So it's preventing parents from taking out Parent Plus loans unless their child has already maxed out every other loan they could possibly take. So it's essentially, oh my God, it's essentially fuck you. If I have daddy's money, if I'm a rich person and I just have liquid money to give my kid to pay for my child's college, winning for me. But if you are a middle class parent and you want to create generational well-being, you're not allowed to take out a loan on behalf of your kid to allow them to go to college. You're not allowed to take on that risk anymore because your kid has to max out every other alternative before they get to doing that. That is so insane. Some time ago, a couple of days ago, I'm subscribed to the Federal Department of Education's official YouTube channel. I don't know how that happened. I just thought it would be interesting to keep up with their politics as a teacher and former student. And the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, the heiress to the WWE World Wrestling something, I don't know, the one who's married to the famous wrestling guy, she put out a little video where she's just like, the American people will not foot the bill for other people's educations. She did not have that accent, but I just think it's funny. She's like, the American people will not foot the bill for other people's educations. I thought it was so insane to hear that rhetoric when, like, this document has $150 billion of increased military spending. If you put whether or not to spend more money on war to a vote, a direct democracy vote for the American people, it would just lose. It would just lose every fucking time. It would lose and lose and lose and lose. 9 times out of 10, it would fucking lose because no one thinks we should be edging another war where we get our people killed and where we waste money on that kind of shit that we could put into anything else. Seeing it say, like, the Secretary of Education will take any steps as may be necessary to make sure that people begin paying back their loans so the government doesn't pay for them, is so insane. Because $150 billion to war and murder and wastes of money straight to technology and weapons, and fuck you, we're not covering any of your loans. Like, what? With a fixed monthly repayment plan, 2, with the applicable period of time for repayment determined based on the total outstanding principal of the loan. So if it's $25,000, you get 10 years. If it's less than 50, you get 15 years. If it's less than 100, you get 20 years to pay it off. 25 years if it's over $100,000. See, this is a whole different other conversation. Like I said, like, it's all just fucked. Everything involving how post-secondary education is funded in the United States is utter garbage. So don't let it be said that I'm arguing in agreement with the market-based principles of capitalism, saying, oh, well, if we just didn't give out federal loans, then the market, whatever. No, you should subsidize public education because society is good, and you want to take care of society, and you want highly educated people, and so tax dollars should go to that. Instead of war, they should go to educating your people and getting them smart as fuck so they can solve problems in unique ways and use resources more efficiently and improve how we govern or whatever. Like, that's just the most common sense answer, is to do what you did with high school with college. Holy shit. It's just like the answer's right in front of you. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, what is the underlying principle of someone who's writing this bill and saying, fuck you, we want to make it harder to access public education? It's just the philosophy of saving government money. Why the fuck do you give a shit about saving the government money? They already waste your tax dollars. You're not, like, are you worried about the misappropriation of your tax dollars? Or are you just worried about the concept of overspending itself because that's just a principle to you? If you really care about the misappropriation of dollars, then why are you putting $150 billion into our military when kids are completely strapped by debt. And if you really are a capitalist, why are you okay with having an entire middle class strapped by debt? That will bring about collapse. Whoa. So if you actually fully default on your loans, like you are inches from being fucking homeless because you cannot pay off your student loans, they're giving the Secretary of Education the authority to just force you to pay for it according to one of their income-based plans. You can't declare bankruptcy on education loans. So you're just... What? They're going to force them... They're going to do what the Republicans want, which is force them to pay for it so the government doesn't have to. We're not going to cover your debt. This is going to put people on the streets. This is just actually going to put people... Like, there's no... You've defaulted on your loans. I mean, you literally cannot come up with the money to pay for it. And they're just going to force you to according to your income. Even if it's a low amount, they're still going to be asking for... You already have too little, and they're going to be asking for more. Not asking, they're going to be demanding for more. Require borrowers. That means penalties. Penalties on top of penalties on top of penalties. A worsened debt cycle. The United States, the middle class in the United States already has a terrible debt issue. Moving forward, if your partner dies and your household is no longer dual income, if you get fired by a giant tech company that overhired during the pandemic, and you literally have no income, you're not allowed to defer your loans. Can't defer them. Looks like this. Forbearance on loans made under this part or after July 1st, 2025. Forbearance made under this part. A borrower who receives a loan may only be eligible for forbearance that does not exceed 9 months during any 24-month period, so you're not allowed to forbear your loans nearly as long. Medical or dental internship residency program may be eligible for forbearance. So you can't defer them. They're making it harder to forbear them. Which my build for this run, stupid. Let me see.
Scribed in section 480.
I jumped straight into it without thinking.
Student.
Like, I mean, I thought, but I didn't do any research. Because I have... Let me pause it real quick. I've only beaten Fallout 4 like 3 or 4 times, maybe. And I just remember Charisma being really useful, so I put everything into Charisma. And then I put a bunch into Strength because I always end up using the Furious Power Fister. And I always think if you're going to do a Charisma build, it's funny to just put everything into fucking Luck too. So, Luck, Charisma, Strength, and then that's it. And then I'm using the Idiot Savant perk to get more EXP more quickly. And then I think as I try to beat it, I'm going to put everything into Endurance and try to get that solar-powered trait to give me a couple of permanent gains to Strength and Endurance. And that'll just beat the game during the daytime, literally. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I think it's not that unique of an idea. It's not a real speedrun build because I watched the world record speedrun after my first round, and they just put everything into Endurance and just make you physically run as fast as possible, if I remember. Yeah, run as long as possible. And they literally put nothing into anything else because the speedrun is so refined after a decade that, like, it's not... There's not much strategy left. You just kind of put everything into Endurance and focus on glitches. I probably should have watched a glitchless speedrun. Probably. Maybe I'll do that tonight. And keep using this to inform how I do shit. But really, I'm just kind of fucking around. We are now done with stuff related to education funding. We are now starting stuff on energy and commerce, of all things. In addition to amounts otherwise available, they are appropriated to the Department of Energy for fiscal year 2025 out of any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated to remain available until September 30th, 2029. $218 million for maintenance of, including repairs to storage facilities and related facilities such as defined in the section of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and $1.3 billion to acquire, purchase petroleum products for storage. Okay. $1.3 billion to just buy more extra petroleum instead of, like, just giving people solar panels? Sure. Yeah, I love being a fucking idiot. I don't know. Obviously we can't 100% transition off of petroleum products in like the period of 1 month. It would take like a couple of years. Probably would take like a decade in practice, right? But you just can't allocate $1.3 billion to buy more crude oil, I guess, or different, oil distillates, petroleum products. What? Just put 1.5 billion to like making sure every single city in America has a very small but very consistent emergency solar power backup grid. The fact that it isn't standard that in every city there is an area that is solar powered, that just provides electricity to people in need in moments of emergency, that's so stupid. Like these people are like, we're war planners, we're like strategic geniuses, and they're like, you know what we should also do? We should have an entire energy system that is incredibly dependent on like one line of thing that we barely can produce locally, even though the sun is free and everywhere. I just don't get it. I just simply do not get it. $400 million is rescinded from the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Fuck. Oh my God. We're like, this is, so I saw, and I'm trying not to let other people's summaries of this document mess with my head too much. I want me to make my decisions. But I saw a headline that was just like, oh, this is the greatest crystallization and movement of wealth from the lower classes to the ruling classes and the oligarchs and the richest people in the world and the corporations. This is the single-handed largest amount of money moved from poor people to rich people, stolen from us in history in one single bill. It's because the entire oil and gas lobby has bought the fucking Republican administration and the Democrat one. They're just bought the fuck out by oil and gas, and $400 million less to implementing and thereby effectively teaching society about the effectiveness of renewable energy. Yeah, that's pretty fucking good. That's pretty effective subversion. That's a really good effort to sabotage sustainability. God, that's fucked up. I hate reading that. Repeal and rescission relating to funding address air pollution. I'm not going to go through every single one of these public laws, but this is terrible. Repeal and rescission relating to funding to address air pollution at schools? Okay, I have to find out what this one is. Air pollution at schools. Yeah, it's to help minimize air pollution at schools in low-income communities. So, oh man, systemic racism. Can't go 30 fucking seconds without it. Not 30 goddamn seconds without this exact issue. Yeah, sure, fuck it. More. Let's just, frankly, at this point, we should just take the tailpipe of your coal-rolling fucking diesel truck, hook her up to the inlet of the school's HVAC system, and just let it rip. Fuck that carbon monoxide. Kill them kids. Yeah, let's repeal that thing. What does it say? The poison gases in the air around the school children? Nah, fuck. I don't like that one. We should repeal it. That's you guys. That's Trump. That's Republicans. What kind of batshit? It's so. This is like worse than culture war, because it's just class war. This is just violence. Like, I will make an entire video on it at some point in time. But you cannot convince me. You cannot convince me that Luigi Mangione shooting a healthcare CEO that is complicit and directly supports an untold amount of human suffering. Like, if there were a karma system in the real world, like a karma system, like in video games, if there were a karma system in the real world, a healthcare CEO like that makes money off of human suffering would be so fucking deep in the hole, they'd be irrecoverable, right? Luigi Mangione gets pissed. He's personally suffered. A lot of people have personally suffered. He shoots a guy. That is one person murdering one person, right? That's bad. Murder is bad, right? Killing a person is bad. Repealing a law that limits polluted air around school children isn't violence? Like, it's violent when Luigi Mangione personally has beef with this one dude and shoots him. But when a government is encouraging the pollution of air around children voluntarily by repealing law that would have limited air pollution around children, that's not violence. I don't... I'm losing her. I'd love to make a video eventually on redefining what the word violence ever meant to us human beings. Us peasants living under the authority of a state. No, man, this is an act of violence. I'm sure there will be many others in this. I think the thing where previously it said that it would limit the ability of lower income parents to take out Parent Plus loans in their name for their children's education, their college education. I think that's also a kind of systemic violence. But I think it's more apparent with this example. Repealing a law, repealing money that would have been invested in minimizing air pollution around school children, repealing that is just an act of harm. and I'm tired of the people in power controlling the narrative successfully to make the argument that it's violence when Luigi Mangione shoots a dude, but it's not violence when they actively support the polluting and poisoning of children. How the fuck is that not violence? I think that might be what the right wingers have down, is that they consider every state act violence, right? Like the existence of trans people is violence to them. And that's why they take shit so seriously, because they are successfully dissuaded from believing that, oh, well, the system is different than personal. No, Republicans are so insecure that they take every single attack as if it's a personal attack of violence against their well-being. And people on the left, on the other hand, have such a systems view that we almost prohibit ourselves from assuming that something is directly affecting us because we look at it systematically, because we're more informed, and that is an actual more appropriate and an empirical reflection of the reality of sociology in the world and how these things happen. But I think we have this issue where we're not taking shit personally enough. Like, we're not what the I forget, what is it my students used to say in the classroom all the time? They'd always say, well, me personally, I wouldn't take that. It was like a joke. They'd always turn to each other. You know, someone would make a light joke of a roast or whatever, and their friend would turn to them and be like, well, me personally, I wouldn't take that. Even though they're not the one that's going to, like, get their ass beat if they start a fight over this. It'd be like a joke to egg someone on, to be like, well, I wouldn't take that. I personally would fight that person about it or whatever. They used to do that. I think the right is just that being, where it's like, I wouldn't take that. I would assume that the existence of trans people and the teaching of the existence of people having complicated feelings about their genders, that is an act of violence against me personally, and they get all up in their shit about it. And to some degree, the Christian nationalists that are part of this issue, their entire Christian self-victimization thing, their religious freedom self-victimization mental complex, that's just that embodied, is this idea of like, all acts by groups I disagree with are necessarily violent, and they must be resisted as if they are. The issue with that, and I don't want to copy the right, I just want to learn from them. The issue with that is that is not an apt reflection of how real sociology works, or how the scale of sociology works, where things affect people in more complicated ways. But I think maybe that's what we're missing. It's like, we need to look at shit like this and be like, yo, you repealed funding to limit the poisoning of the air that school children breathe. Kill yourself. Like, that's too much. But no, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not. It's not. Like, the harm they're going to cause is catastrophic. And just because a person doesn't die from harm doesn't mean that maybe you could kind of qualitatively be like, well, you know, if you reduce such and such many people's lives by so and so many years, you've effectively eaten up so and so many lifetimes of a human being. You're culpable for the effective murder of these people. We got to stop being afraid to just say that shit as it is, because it is what it is. State violence is real violence, even if it doesn't look as personable and as personal and close and intimate as like a murder. We need to get our heads out of our asses and realize is that they are hedging on the hope that we treat their choices like they aren't direct violence. They are. And we need to get off of our asses and start acting like it. It was money, a lot of money. It was $100 million, I believe. $100 million, it says right there. Yeah, $100 million to help identify future construction materials that are lower carbon impact from making our infrastructure. This is bad. Repealing all of this back to back to back is actual climate disaster. It's setting us back so fucking far. Repeal and rescission relating to environmental and climate justice block. Oh, this is going to suck. God, this sucks. This part of it sucks. Now, I think they put the farmers in the front to bore people, to keep them from reading it. Because who's going to scroll 100 pages with their mouse before, like, noticing anything they particularly understand or care about or that affects them most directly? Obviously, agriculture does. But it was a lot of the very specific jargon that is connected to farming. That was the first 100 pages of this document. And then the real shit kicks in after that. Repeal of EPA rule relating to multi-pollutant emission standards. This entire section is so bad.
Or FA. Facilitate the deployment or operation of an ARTI. Official Intelligence Model, Artificial Intelligence. System or automated decision systems. B. The primary purpose and effect of. Which is...
Rule of construction. Paragraph 1 may not be construed to prohibit the enforcement of any law or regulation that the primary purpose and effect of which is to remove legal impediments to or facilitate the deployment or operation of an artificial intelligence model, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision system. No state or political subdivision thereof may enforce any law or regulation regulating... Whoa! What authorized uses the Secretary of Commerce shall use the funds appropriated under subsection A for the following: to replace or modernize legacy business systems with AI, to facilitate within the Department of Commerce the adoption of artificial intelligence models that increase operational efficiency, to improve within the Department of Commerce cybersecurity posture of federal information through artificial intelligence. C. Moratorium. In general, except as provided in paragraph 2, no state or political subdivision thereof may enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this act. Holy shit, one fucking line from this act is that bad? No state shall enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models. What? What? This is like world-changingly bad. What? I don't even know what to do with that. This isn't something a normal person should even read. This is actually bad. Nothing has scared me as much as that one. That's so... It's not even just the worrying about AI. I'm not worried about AI taking over literally, like Synths in Fallout 4. I'm worried about oligarchs getting to make cyberpunk dystopian decisions about people's lives using AI.
Subdivision there.
Fuck!
7th may enforce any law or regulation.
What is this?
SIL intelligence models, artificial intelligence sys. Imposed where generally applicable law is. Imposed in the same manner on models.
Holy shit, Elon Musk, all these people successfully got
models,
essentially an unlimited guarantee that no one will ever regulate their work.
That provide comparable functions to Artify. SIL intelligence models, artificial intel.
Fucking Christ.
License systems or automated decision sys.
Whoa. Did we just change entire sections? Okay, subtitle D health. Holy crap. Whew, alright. The Broadsider. 108 damage, 24 cannonballs. I'm just going to use this to go to Swan's Pond and kill Swan. That's the only logical choice. Is that I use this to defeat Swan. It's going to go right into that building, right? That one there. It's going to be sick. Go for it. Let's do it. This is going to be so sick. This is going to look so insane. I'm so hyped. I've seen this, but only like in someone else's let's play or playthrough. This is good. I'm just so hyped. It's a pretty cool model actually. The whole ship, seeing it like this. This is so insane. Yeah, this is so worth it. Wouldn't just the water there be enough? Why not just stay there? Wouldn't the water be enough? Just go sailing. Oh no. No! Now I gotta go find them in that shit. How much? Oh, not even enough for a level. I start streaming, and then I read a reply to a comment I made on a post about this document, mentioning it to people. And unsurprisingly, I urged people to do what I'm trying to model, which is sit down and read this sort of thing word for word. And someone, this happens every time with these large documents. It happened with Project 2025. It's been happening with Supreme Court readings, where people will post AI summaries. People will post AI summaries of these documents. And the only way I see that sort of thing is like, hey, this thing is making headlines, but I'm too busy. I'm going to be charitable. That this abstract concept of a person posting an AI summary of an incredibly important Billon document. Sorry, I'm such an elitist prick as an educator, I guess. As a teacher, we're so elitist. So my concept of this person that would post an AI summary of a document to kind of, update people on what the document is about and get it out quickly so they don't have to do the work. The AI can just do it for them. They're busy. They're just a random person. Maybe they're not a journalist. Maybe they're not a politician. And so they throw it to the AI, and the AI summarizes it, and it throws back like, well, here's what the document's about. And there are some very easy and straightforward criticisms against doing that. 90% of which is just that when you read these documents yourself, and I can say this as someone who has made it public that is what I do. When you read these documents yourself, you have a lens as a human being. You have a worldview, right? And that worldview is informed by your experiences, and your experiences are a consequence of the society and sociological context in which you find yourself. Socio, emotional, developmental, socio-cultural context that you are raised up in. And the beauty is, as a human reader with a perspective, is you can apply your perspective to a piece of writing or a piece of legislation, and certain things will stand out to you, and that's actually beautiful and powerful and important and a part of civic engagement. The sort of like stone cold detached perspective that an AI is going to read a document with, unless you tell it to read it with a perspective, thereby you're trying to have it emulate a human when you are right there as a human that could do it yourself. Themes are lost. The resonation, the resonance that is your connectedness to these documents is lost when you use an AI to summarize these sorts of documents. You cannot compress a 1,118-page document into a 500-word summary. You just cannot do that. When there are individual specific policies in this document where one sentence in this document, one phrase, one paragraph in this document could change the outcome of an entire person's 80-year-long life. You cannot summarize this shit with AI. I'm just really bothered. Here's my perspective as an educator. If you were in a public school in the United States and you went to high school, your history teacher sat your ass down and made you read some fucking documents word for word. And you survived that. So why can't grown-ass adults in the real world be like, hey, I used Control F and I scoured through the table of contents and found certain sections that I thought concerning. Here they are, and here's how I understand them. If grown-ass adults can't do that, and instead are using AI to summarize a document that affects the lives of real people to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, why the fuck do we ask teenagers to pull that off? If fucking adults can... I'm just so bothered. I'm just so bothered as a teacher. I know that if you went to public school in the United States in the past 20 years, your history teacher sat your ass down and did DBQs based on real documentation where you had to sit down and read it. I do not think the appropriate use of AI is to summarize things that could, listen, let's just be honest, that could end your life. That could affect your life in ways that are unconscionably violent, frankly. I don't know. I'm having a teacher moment. It's just, I really, really caution everyone from using AI to summarize these documents. You're probably thinking like, well, you're doing it, so it's personal. You're right, it is personal to me. It's personal to me because I have a background in educational psychology. And I understand that like reading this word for word is 1,000,000 times more empowering than reading an AI summary. It's 1,000,000 times more empowering. It's 1,000,000 times more personal. I'm so much more, just from a cognitive psychology standpoint, from cognition and the processes of the brain and behavior as a consequence, I am so much more likely to actually internalize and memorize these things because I am reading it myself. And I have a lens with which to interpret what I'm reading, as opposed to using an AI to summarize it. I know why that bothers me so much. It's because I just think it's lazy. Because, like, you know, the kind of person that has the free time to stay up to date on this kind of niche politics is also the person that probably has the free time to read through this for a little bit, right? Like, I understand, and I made an argument where it was like, hey, it's hilarious because, you know, I'm having people say like, hey, check out these AI summaries of the document. And then I'm on page 292 where the document says, except as provided in paragraph 2, no state or political subdivision thereof may enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems during the 10-year period beginning on the date and enactment of this act. One sentence, one paragraph on page 292 of this document will have such a profound and inconceivable effect on society at scale. And it just so happens that it's about limiting the regulation of AI, while companies like Palantir and X and Google and Apple are developing AIs, and some of these companies are selling their AIs to the United States military and government. That's what you get for not reading the document. That's what you get for relying on an AI summary. I'm not saying the AI is biased against outing itself. I'm just saying that it takes a human being to sit down and read this crap. Call me a Luddite. Go for it. Call me a Luddite as I stream on YouTube. But the AI is likely, I don't know for certain, but AI is likely the tool of the oppressor. Whereas people power is the tool of the people. Unsurprising. So I have negative dispositions towards AI, large language model AI, neural network AI. Machine learning, that's kind of a different thing. I really like machine vision. I think that like that's what AI was supposed to be about. It's like machine vision and automation. This is not automation. This is the facsimile of a perspective. And it is antithetical to meaningful comprehensive learning. All right, that's enough ranting about AI summaries of documents. Let's play Fallout 4. I'm so enlightened. I'm so smart. Listen, man, I'm just saying, I taught in a classroom. I know what AI does to learning. I've seen what AI does to learning. And the idea that like an average citizen is going to start using AI to demystify the bureaucratic musings of a bill, that's just dystopian. It is just dystopian. Check out my video about Palantir, the 5051 movement, and comic book supervillains, where I talk about dystopia. And I make a very concise argument that we currently live in a dystopia right now. All right, we're going to go back to playing. I'm going to go try to kill Swan. We left off on page 295, which is the beginning of the section on healthcare. You guys are watching. We're reading. We're suffering together. Together.
Services on April 2nd, 2024.
All right, so let's just do like 5 fragmentation lines. So it's talking about making sure that, you know, social security numbers are legit and people aren't stealing health insurance. It's just the premise of regulating the quote-unquote stealing of health care. That's just such a oxymoron. Fuck do you mean stealing healthcare? People are like breaking their feet. Like obviously doctors are starting to regulate pain medicine, for example, if you're worried about people using it for substance abuse disorders. But like, who the fuck is stealing healthcare? You're stealing healthcare from our tax dollars. Our tax dollars are for healthcare. Stop doing the $150 billion to fucking the goddamn military and maybe we'll be chill.
Not remain enrolled.
What if I insert same requirements for ensuring deceased individuals who not remain enrolled? Oh, fixing the like. Maybe that's kind of valid for once, but like occasionally that does happen where like someone is dead and supposedly they still get service. But you know what? I saw a really great local piece of journalism from here in Denver where they found someone who was claimed dead falsely. But was totally alive and still needed to access their social security and some, you know, other government subsidies. And they had to prove that they were alive like 5 times. Like over the phone, couldn't happen. Like in person, they wouldn't take it, this and that. This guy could not prove that he was alive. And he was a veteran. He could not prove that he was, I think he was a veteran. I can't quite remember. But I remember that being like an unfortunately notable thing. So he had to prove that he was alive in order to access this stuff. So as much as they're complaining about, like, oh, dead people are still getting healthcare, there are also living people that don't get it, that are supposed to. So, and like the number that this happens with is so incomprehensibly small. That's like one of these issues with legislation. It's like, why the fuck are we legislating a 100-person issue away when there are 100 million person issues that you could legislate and deal with? Like, what a waste of time. Just especially as like a libertarian anarchist person, like, I just, why are you legislating something so inconsequential? All right, here's my question. If someone is deceased and is supposedly still accessing these things, are the Republicans thinking that someone has stolen their identity to get health care? One, I'm still not that bothered because it's health care. You're not stealing anything. That's not violence. Is accessing something that your government should have provided you from the beginning. That's not violence. I don't consider identity theft of a dead person in order to access health care, even if you didn't pay into it, as violence. That's not, it's barely a problem. It's a person getting health care. But like, is that their reasoning, that like these dead people are having their identity stolen and people are using it to what, be addicted to health care? Be addicted to getting their flu shot? Being addicted to, you know, getting medicine? And if that's not the reasoning, is the reasoning that like somehow the money is disappearing because it's being like given? I don't fucking know. This subsection shall be construed to preclude that. How? I need data. When the government, I hate it. I hate how unscientific this shit is. To timely identify potentially, why? Tell me why you can't give me data for like, oh well, we have this many people that are dead and using it. That's why we're legislating this. Tell me, prove it. You can't, because you probably have like 100. The Affordable Care Act? You mean Obamacare? You're using Obama? I thought we hate Obama. Why don't you repeal Obamacare? I thought you hate Obama and the liberals. See how that goes for you. How the hell are they talking about home equity right now? What? Revising home equity limit for determining eligibility for long-term care services under the Medicaid program. So the value of your home should determine whether or not you are deserving of not, like, being abandoned while you age? An individual enrolled under section, a state shall redetermine the eligibility of such individuals for medical assistance under the state plan of such once every 6 months. You could die in that time. You could die. Your grandpa could die. Your loved ones could die in 6 months of no health care. I would die in 1 month of no health. I'd die maybe in 2 months of no health care. A 6 month waiting period. Obviously, they're just going to make it harder for a lot of people to have access to health care. For the people that already have it, and then maybe for some reason redesignated automatically by these changes, they only get 6 months between tries. People could die in that time. People will probably die in that time. Hey, this is like really fucked up. Elect without regard to the. Fuck, I hate reading this document. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It's not fun. It's only bad. All right. Prohibiting federal Medicaid and CHIP funding child health care something plan. I can't remember anymore. Insurance plan? Child health care insurance plan? Funding for gender transition procedures for minors. I should just start pulling it up every time. But there's official data in the U.S. on the number of gender transition surgeries taking place per year for minors. It's like, I don't remember what it is, but it's like in the thousands maybe per year. It's much less than 10,000. It's still more than 100. I think it's in the thousands. And like the vast majority of them are all cis boys dealing with gyno, getting breast reductions. Technically, it's a breast reduction and it's top surgery. And then maybe there are some trans kids that are doing top surgery. And then bottom surgery, there's like 20 minors per year or something that get it, which is like a 0.0000000 percentage of the United States of America. This is so incomprehensibly uncommon, unimportant, not... So like, one, trans rights, right? We should liberate trans people. We should do youth liberation. We should create better systems for letting children make decisions about their lives and doing it safely and effectively. And that's a discussion that's worth having. Yeah, like We should just put more research into understanding what it really means to be trans in the first place, especially psychologically, for making the final decisions. And I also like the idea of letting letting people pursue that and make sense of it. Socially transitioning is so different from medically transitioning, and that's different from hormonal transitioning, which is different from surgical transitioning. These are all different things. It's a complicated situation. Gender transitioning procedures for minors. It's like 50 per year, and the amount of fucking hoops that families have to jump through to make it happen means it doesn't happen by fucking accident. It also still costs a fuck ton of money, even if you have Medicaid or CHIP. Still costing you a fuck ton of money. So just shut the fuck up about these. The government should have nothing to fucking say about what a child is choosing to do, about what a family is choosing to do. None of this. Get the government out of my fucking life, out of your life. And regulating this and putting money into regulating this is psychotic. In general, for the purpose of section, except as provided, the term specified gender transition procedure means with respect to an individual, any of the following when performed for the purpose of intentionally changing the body of such individuals, including by disrupting the body's development, inhibiting its natural functions, or modifying its appearance to no longer correspond to the individual's sex. Oh, this definition is fascism. Bad. Do you know the different ways that you could interpret development and natural function? Oh my God. Wait. Oh, this is going to be so much case law on this. This is going to be so interesting in a bad way, but because they've left so much room to fuck around. Medically necessary. Okay, so I'm actually going to read the second part first. So they're still going to allow puberty drugs for atypical puberties. Medically necessary procedures for... They're talking about aneuploidies for intersex, sex steroid hormone production, sex hormone action, if determined to be abnormal through genetic or biological means, the effects of infection, procedures to restore and reconstruct the body of an individual in order to correspond to the individual's sex after one or more procedures described in paragraph. This may include the removal of pseudophallus or breast. Ah, fuck, they've gotten smarter. Okay, unfortunately, they are just banning gender. Okay, and then their definition of sex isn't even right. It's sex meaning either male or female. Again, intersex people exist, and you even acknowledge it 30 words before this. So you don't even know how to define sex correctly. Female naturally has, will, or would have the reproductive system that at some point produces, transports eggs. Male, sperm. And it's kind of hard to tell which one's which, and it's going to be really hard to medically verify. So it looks like they're successfully making room for intersex people, people with hormonal disorders. So this sucks. I like when they fuck up. Unfortunately, they haven't fucked up that hard. I mean, they're transphobic. They haven't fucked up. They haven't done the fuck up. The fuck up would be like, oh, we accidentally forgot about intersex kids, which is something they would do, but the law has made room for it, and I'm sure it's because with legal consult, they designed this bill and act to not be immediately challenged in the Supreme Court, because it fucking would have if they hadn't made room for this. Wonderful. I'm happy for intersex people. I'm happy for all those sorts of those gender. So gender affirming care, yes. Gender transition care, no. That's the summary. But I'm going to go through all of these individual things. So again, it's disrupting the body's development, inhibiting its natural function, or modifying its appearance to no longer correspond to the individual's sex, plastic or cosmetic or aesthetic surgery that feminizes or masculinizes facial or other body features of an individual. So, I think we finally found a good hang-up that we could kind of lean into. I see a route of legal challenge for this, finally. Any plastic, cosmetic, or aesthetic surgery that feminizes or masculinizes the facial or other body features of an individual. What if how your culture defines feminine is how my culture defines masculine, and to your child it's gender affirming, but to me it wouldn't be because I define gender differently? That is going to be a route of challenge. I hope we fucking get a challenge to it through that route. That would be it. It's all bullshit. We should stop trying to regulate things like gender and sex and people's access to transitionary healthcare. You have to understand that yes, you can pay doctors to do shit, but it costs a fuck ton of money here. And even if it didn't cost a fuck ton of money, they have medical licenses. They can't just go around doing willy-nilly surgeries without like a child really being deeply affected. I think, again, this is all applying to minors though, which is kind of a different conversation that even I'm willing to have. I know it's crazy, like I'm trans rights, but I think there should be systems in place where like it takes time to kind of get out of the adolescent and then get into the young adult stages, so teenage. So going from like 10, 11, 12, 13. I think there needs to be a time period where like you get towards the 16s and the 17s as things kind of escalate, so that way there is time before hitting these more difficult to reverse procedures. I actually am a fan of that. I think gender counseling should exist. I think that should be a thing that is paired with other medical treatments, where a child receives, I think this is what they do in the UK, if I remember correctly, where children get gender counseling long before they are touching anything that is permanent, whether it be hormonal, which is moderately reversible, and then obviously surgical, which is much more difficult to reverse. I'm actually generally a fan of gender counseling. In fact, I think we should just be teaching people that people are complicated and that you're going to feel complicated ways. And frankly, like, I think trans people should exist. But I wonder if the people and the way they live their life and being trans, whether that be medical, whether that be social, whether that be hormonal, whether it be surgical, I think that shouldn't even fucking matter or have anything to do with anyone's goddamn opinion or the government. Or it totally should be out of their lives. People should be free. But to some degree, I am a gender abolitionist, which I've had some really valuable and succinct conversations with some new friends. I've been a gender abolitionist insofar as I think we should move beyond the restrictive parts of social constructs of gender, so gender norms. I think we should move beyond those and create a world where people are free to be as they are without the gender label boxing them in. But I also had some good conversations with some trans friends. Technically I'm non-binary, so I don't know if I'm truly trans. I don't experience dysphoria, gender dysphoria, so that might be kind of disqualifying depending on who you ask. I don't know. I don't really worry about it. I had some good conversations with some friends who were like, hey, but, I get the idea of not wanting to do gender norms, but my gender matters to me. Like, I like feeling feminine. It matters to me. I feel good, and I enjoy living that way. And guess what? When I hear that, do I counter them by being like, yeah, but gender norms and you'll be liberated by getting rid of gender norms? No, that's not what I think. What I think is, oh, well, that doesn't hurt anyone, so I don't fucking care. Go for it. And that's the reasonable solution. So we should push society forward such that gender norms do not have as consequential effects on the outcome of a person's life. We should de-misogynize our culture and our government and our systems of power. And then gender can be just what a person wants it to be for them. Just a thing that defines them, and if they want to feel pretty in a certain way, they can fucking go for it. Will gender norms always exist? Fucking absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. The data is data. There are physiological sexes. There are a few of them. Intersexes, and then male and female, and then different hundreds of millions of different configurations of how male and female develops and what that looks like in a person. But there are bell curves where people end up certain ways. Gender norms will probably always exist. And I don't think, I don't care about doing anything about their existence insofar as they should not affect the outcome of a person's life in a material way. Instead, they should be a thing that a person gets to interact with, like their height. I'm tall. I don't like the fact that being tall has allowed me certain advantages throughout life. I'd rather that not be the case, because I'd rather my actual personality matter more. So, yeah, that's the whole thing. I'm a gender abolitionist, but I'm a gender abolitionist in the way that I'm a free speech absolutist. I think free speech is really good. I also think hate speech that directly incites violence is, like, bad. Paradox of tolerance. When it comes to children's access to gender transition care, I think there should be counseling involved. I think there should be professional adults involved to guide the process, not to an outcome, but instead to guide the child towards well-being and health and welfare and self-actualization and just well-being in general. So I think these are totally fine. I definitely, listen, the way I think is, based on psychology and development, I don't really know if a child's personality is a personality and their beliefs and the whole exploration thing. I hate that Christian nationalists, especially, who are super against this whole sanctity of body thing for trans people. They're super transphobic. Sometimes Christian nationalists are all bad people. That doesn't mean all Christians are. If you don't like that Christian nationalists are giving Christians a bad name, then you need to fucking deal with it in your own community. I'm an atheist, so it's not my problem to fucking fix. Yeah, I probably like 12 or 13. and then you can start gender counseling, and then because be real, most children are pretty androgynous until like a certain-ish area. You know what? Just gender counseling at some point. and it's up to the family and the child to advocate and figure out when it is they want to have that conversation. It doesn't even need to be called gender counseling. It could just be like puberty counseling. Like, why the fuck don't we have puberty counseling for everyone? Why not forced? I just mean an option, right? Why is that? Obviously, a doctor plays that role. A psychiatrist can kind of play that role. I think it'd be really healthy for. We should have aging counseling. We should have puberty counseling. We should have childhood counseling. We should have. Society should be oriented such that humans help each other, is what I mean. And I think that could be an important part of deciding children's access to the most irreversible, the most difficult to reverse pursuits that are involving surgical transition. Honestly, hormonal transition, I don't really give a shit. I don't think it needs to be qualified too hard. Social transition, the second that the government touches the concept of social transitioning, that it's over. Like, that's fucking warfare. Like, that's violence. I will say, as someone who doesn't suffer with or struggle with gender dysphoria, I am in a position of privilege because there are things I don't understand about how severe this is when you're young. And I know it's so tempting to be like, ooh, they're abolishing all healthcare. They're not. I would love to be able to tell cis people, you're under a threat too, and they are, but not substantively according to this individual document. The effects of diseases that impair bodily functions. Restore or reconstruct the body of an individual to correspond with sex after one or more previous procedures. Yep. Oh, detransitioning is allowed. Transitioning is allowed. Detransitioning is not. Wait. Detransitioning is allowed. Transitioning is not. Interesting. What if... Follow me here. This is insane. What if a young male boy has gyno, which means he naturally developed breast tissue that is rather sizable, enough to be socially inconvenient, usually is the point at which it needs to be dealt with. A male boy develops gyno and is trans, and their body naturally developed breasts, and that male with gyno is trans, but transitioned completely naturally. What does that do with this system? What happens if that child that is certain they are female wants to get gyno anyway? Wants to get the breast reduction anyway? The child says that they're trans, but they'd be doing a surgery that to the government seems as gender transitionary. What happens then? This is just fun because the government is fucking stupid and doesn't know what sex and gender are. Oh, look, how they define sex, male and female. What about intersex? Female, individual eggs. Male, individual sperm. No federal funds that are considered direct spending and providing to carry out a state plan under Title XIX 10.1.21 of the Social Security Act or waiver plan should be used to make payments to prohibited entities for items and services furnished during the 10-year period beginning on the day. If this lasts 10 years, it will affect trans people in a serious fucking prohibited entity. Organization described by the IRS as exempt from tax, essential community provider, federal regulation. Family planning provides for abortions other than an abortion if the pregnancy is a result of rape or incest. So that the Republicans have learned the federal make the, what is the word? The word is make an exception for rape or incest. Suffers from physical disorders, physical injury, physical illness, including life endangering physical. So threatening the life of the mother or rape or incest. Total amount of federal and state expenditures. So they're going to be turning off... Well, let me read this better. No federal funds that are considered direct spending. State plan shall be used to make payments to a prohibited entity for items and services. And these include... They are withdrawing federal funding from... family planning, reproductive health centers that are nonprofits. Okay, that's the one. What is it called? The one that people are always protesting. How did I forget this? Planned Parenthood. Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. It's called Planned Parenthood, and I completely forgot what it was called. Planned Parenthoods now will not have access if they provide abortions at all. Yeah, if they provide any abortions that are anything other than for rape and incest or the life of the mother. Oh, that's really bad. I'm sure there are already limits on it from state to state, but this would federally do that. I'm not sure this is going to be able to hold up in court because it's that bad. I like how I haven't been playing the game for like a long time now, but reading is more important.
For SPE, CIAL enrollment periods. A, in general. With respect to enroll. Meant for plan years beginning on or after Janu. Ary 1, 2026, an exchange shall verify that each individual seeking to enroll in a qualified health plan offered by the exchange during a special enrollment period selected under subparagraph B is eligible to enroll during such special enrollment period.
I don't understand. You're going to put this much fucking energy into making so people don't have access to healthcare, and then you're going to spend $150 billion for more fucking war.
Protection and Affordable Care
You're
Act,
anti-life. You're not pro-life, you're anti-life. You're against the concept of life, of well-being, of safety.
Period to resolve an inconsistency in the
Where the hell is
application
Good Neighbor? I
of
don't
such
fucking remember
individual
anymore.
pursuant to section
There it is. Alright, time to read stuff. So, prohibiting coverage of gender transition procedures as an essential health benefit under plans offered by exchanges. Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act is amended by adding that at the end of the following new subparagraph, procedures for plans beginning on or after. I mean, there's a genuine chance that if you're non-binary like me and you try to get a vasectomy as an adult, you are now not allowed to because your government specifically decided to fuck you over. Not because they couldn't afford it. It was already a thing that was allowed before. Nope, just because they want to fuck you over. I'm sure it's already hard to get half the stuff covered. Okay, it's a copy paste of the one for the kids. So I'm glad that I read it through because it appears not once but twice. Oh my god, they're going out of the way. They're going out of the way to ban Medicaid-based transgender surgery for immigrants while adding $150 billion to the military budget. What the fuck? Okay, now we are getting on to Committee on Homeland Security, which is going to be terrible, genuinely awful. Completely certain of that. So, appropriated to the Commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol out of any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated to remain available until 2029 the following: $46 billion for necessary expenses relating to the following. And then it's going to list each of them. So it's just starting out with the number $46 billion. Well, at least I have a number to understand where it's going to go to. This is like preparing for a domestic war on immigration. $1 billion for expenses to procurement and integration of new non-intrusive inspection equipment and associated civil work. Artificial intelligence. I made a video on this. Palantir. Let me totally verify. I believe Palantir ICE Trump. I believe Palantir actually is trying to work with Trump. Axios reports partnership with ICE deepens, building a new tool to provide immigration and customs enforcement with enhanced capabilities to support deportation efforts. Yep, it's right there. Palantir makes AI, and right here they are allocating $1 billion, which is only some of it, for artificial intelligence, as well as other mission support to combat the entry of illicit narcotics along the southwest, northern maritime borders. So they had to throw in the narcotics because AI is scary enough, rightfully, to most people and an invasion of their privacy. They had to throw in narcotics to kind of take the edge off. $2.7 billion for necessary expenses relating to upgrades and procurement of border surveillance technology. I'm sure that means literally cameras, but Palantir also makes the algorithms that do the machine vision for identifying people, tying it to their identities. None of the funds made available may be used for deployment of towers that have not been tested and accepted by the federal government to deliver autonomous capabilities. Oh, hell yeah. Palantir is all over this shit. They get a whole billy out of this. That's defense contracting for you. All that talk from their leadership and all that being subservient to Trump and being in support of bloodlust and all that got them $1 billion. I'm sure not all of that billion goes just to Palantir, but I mean, they're listed pretty clearly in there. Without saying a name, they're listed pretty clearly. So I guess in Trump's perspective, Border Patrol and ICE are just like the response to Mexico's paramilitia that he considers their mafia, the cartel. So he essentially probably just sees them effectively as the domestic military fighting the cartel. So he needs to station people at his different residences to protect them. Ivory Tower. incurred or incurs. Administrator, Federal Emergency Management. FEMA? In excess. I thought we were trying to defund FEMA. Now we're suddenly using FEMA. Why the fuck are you using my money for the Olympics and FIFA? $1 billion? Over a $500 million? You could feed people. You could house people. Feeding people is actually pretty cheap. You could house people. Stone Garden. Whoa, what the hell is Operation Stone Garden? Like, tell me why this money isn't just going into, like, expediting the process of getting people approved or not approved for immigration. Why would you not just put billions and billions into fixing that and solve the underlying issue? You don't want to solve the underlying issue. You want to villainize immigrants in order to continue constructing a sort of mythology that supports your entire thing, your entire spearheaded movement of creating an enemy to construct an allyship. The issue is people on the left don't like creating an enemy. They don't have to. They like creating enemies from themselves instead. Okay, Committee on the Judiciary, which I understand the judiciary a lot less, but I've heard that they're effectively gutting the courts. This section isn't particularly surprising. They're just legislating really hard that immigrating is going to cost a bunch of money. They're going to make it so that lower middle class immigrants literally cannot get to the U.S., meaning only upper middle class and frankly wealthy immigrants can get here, which is pretty in alignment with Trump's whole gold card thing. We only want them if they're rich. That's like just a whole different kind of like in-your-face classism that people should be uniting over, because that shit's insane. Fees for immigration in every 5 million different possible ways. Oh, they're pulling the old signing bonus situation. Retention and signing bonuses for U.S. immigrations and customs enforcement personnel. So how do we get more people to join ICE? How do we get them to stay? It's similar stuff as with teachers. You give them signing bonuses if they commit to a certain number of years, and at that point they end up just kind of locked in. Because if you make it through the first 5 years, statistically you're probably just going to stay in the job forever. And the signing bonus will get people to get to that 5 years where psychology kicks in. Yep, they're raising an anti-immigrant army, like a xenophobe army. That's what they're doing. What is the classic theory opinion? You know, the existence of a border implies the violence of a state to defend it, I believe. Contact the consulate or embassy of such unaccompanied alien child's country of nationality or last habitual residence to request such unaccompanied child's criminal record, and 2. Conduct an examination of the unaccompanied child for gang-related tattoos and other gang-related markings. Wow! Like undressing little children, to like make sure they don't have gang, like MS-13 poorly, it's not even photoshopped, it's MS painted on their fingers. That image was so fucking hilarious. That's gonna go down in fucking history as like evidence of like, hey, facts mean fucking nothing to Trump and the right-wing administration. Like, actual facts mean goddamn nothing. There's lots of idiots on the left, and Democrats especially, that will like just kind of run with things without reading through them word for word. Term solicitation orders means any business activity that facilitates the solicitation of orders, even if the activity may also serve some independently viable business function apart from solicitation. Restriction of funds. No court in the United States may use appropriated funds to enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction. This is the one. I know this one. I know these words. I've heard about this. No court may use funds to enforce a contempt citation, so getting you in trouble, contempt of court, for failure to comply with an injunction, so an injunction can stop a government official from doing something, or require a government official to do something, or restraining order if no security was given to the injunction or order was issued pursuant to federal post-security. It's like bail for your court case. Oh, so if you don't offer a way to pay your way out... Oh, I'm putting it together! Barely. I'm going to talk to a lawyer friend maybe about this one, because this language is hard for me. There used to be essentially a bail, a security, where if you were found in contempt of court, you would be cited as being in contempt of court for violating an injunction. There's a thing where the court can say, fuck you, we're not going to let you buy your way out of this. We're not going to let you do security. No security was given when the injunction order was issued. Yeah. So they're going to say that you can't enforce contempt of court. You can't do anything to stop the executive branch. See, this is officially like, I'm officially like, don't know what's going on very well, because I'm not a lawyer. But I'm a normal person that's trying to make sense of it, and I'm getting pretty close. If that is what I think it is, and I'm not going to communicate it to you as if I really am interpreting that way, I encourage you to kind of double up on the quick research I just did and the explanation I attempt to make of this. If it is what I feel it is based on what I've researched, I kind of think it is based on what I've researched, and I've heard elsewhere something about this exact entry, I believe. If this is what I think it is, this is the rise of fascism in our faces. The subversion and deconstruction of systems of accountability for the executive branch of the government, the crystallization of power onwards, upwards, and into the president, the formation of an oligarchy, the formation of a increasingly overpowered president and executive branch. Bad. That's really, really bad. I like how they always put that shit in like the other section. They always put the really bad stuff like at the end. They sort of tack it on at the last second. Title 8. Committee on Natural Resources. All right, chat. We have gone from I'm a random person that doesn't understand law to I'm an environmental science teacher. And this is the Committee on Natural Resources. Part 1 is oil and gas. I know what I'm talking about. In conducting a lease sale under paragraph 2 in a state described in the paragraph, the Secretary of Interior shall offer all nominated parcels eligible for geothermal utilization under a land use plan developed or revised. Now here's the issue. There are a lot of these, and I know this is so specific, but in Colorado, for example, some of these good geothermal sites are 100% Native American land that we really shouldn't be fucking up. And still, building geothermal is a bit complicated and does have pollution at the beginning. That pays itself off pretty quickly, though.
C1A of public law.
Guess I should have been doing more settlements the whole time.
115 to 16 USC 3143 note and
again, they could be continuing to invest in a combination of wind and solar, and then hydro and geothermal, depending on the areas that support it. But no, let's just fucking ruin Alaska.
D. The Endangered Species Act of 1973.
Oh, they're just making right of way. Like, I don't mean public right of way, literally. I mean, they're just bulldozing all other things in the way of leasing this land to the oil and gas producers. Average rent rates. So, renewable energy fees on federal land. Fees. So, they're increasing fees for renewable energy while bulldozing all regulation to make it easier for the oil and gas lobby. So, the oil and gas lobby can outcompete the renewable energy. So, pay an acreage rent collected under paragraph 1 until the date capacity fees of the right-of-way is authorized for use, occupancy, or development with respect to an activity other than the generation of wind energy for the entirety of the year in which the capacity fee is collected. Has to be other than wind. Yeah, don't they have like a weird hatred towards wind, if I remember? Ensuring fee certainty, so they're just really tightening the goddamn screws on all of renewable energy. Yeah, when I beat this, I'm going to take, like a week off of reading, and then I will come back and I'll play a variety of games, maybe more Fallout, maybe Minecraft, maybe Subnautica, who knows. I'll play other games while I attempt to finish out the other, 400 pages that'll be left over, which is going to be terrible. So, that is the plan. I am, from what I understand, very likely to beat the game today. But the issue is, some of the most important parts of this document are coming in right now and 100 pages from now. So it's a challenge for fun, but in reality I'm here to play the game and have some fun and also pay attention to the document and get something out of it. So I may stop one or trade one for the other at different periods in time because this is not a real speedrun category.
2. Rescission of funds for facilities of NA. Tidal, oceanic, and atmospheric.
Yep, taking away money from the NOAA is a stupid idea. Horrific idea.
There is hereby rescinded the unobligated balance of.
Horrible idea.
Made available by section
We desperately depend on the health of our oceans. As a species, we depend on the health of our oceans. We depend on the ability to track weather fronts and predict things like the tornadoes that have been recently hitting certain areas. $2 billion to remain available through September 2034 for construction and associated activities that increase the capacity of existing Bureau of Reclamation Service water storage facilities. Cool. Saving more water. Good thing. We should be getting water from the rain as much as possible. Water conveyance enhancement. Oh, however, I need to understand that at scale, anything talking about saving water at an infrastructure level from the United States is guaranteedly for farmers and industry. It's not for normal people, because the amount of water that residential uses, even with the horrific existence of lawns in climates where lawns should not exist, residential water usage is like nothing compared to industrial and most notably agricultural water usage. So this is definitely water use that's going to that. It's worth noting that monocrop agriculture, factory farming, and industrial agriculture it's more efficient with water than it used to be. It's still garbage compared to like more labor intensive methods. And also, instead of just plowing a field, you could use permaculture. I'm just saying, like it uses way more water than permaculture, so it makes sense that with the pro-industry stance that this entire administration has taken, it makes sense that they'd want to increase the amount of surface water that farmers have access to. Because as much as they want to deny the existence of climate change, it's still happening, and certain parts of the U.S. are drying up and other parts are getting wetter.
Appropriated to the Secretary of the
Agreement may correct minor errors in the maps or the legal descriptions finalized. Under paragraph 1.4, map unfiled, the maps and legal doc. Descriptions
Where's the
finalized
kid?
under paragraph 1 shall be kept on file and available for public inspection in each appropriate office of the Forest
Wow,
Service.
holy crap,
F,
I'm going to beat the
rule of
game.
construction. Nothing in this
And I'm at
SEC.
681. I was
Time
hoping
shall
to
be
hit more like
construed
page
as authorizing
700.
the conveyance of any lands administered
Because that's
by the
going to leave me
National
with
Park
like
Service.
what?
2. Definitions.
400,
Use section. 1.
50
Covered
pages
entity.
left. That's
The
still a
term
lot.
Covered N. Titty means the following. A. Beaver County.
Alright, I don't know what's going on with the kid, but I'm pressing the button.
Covered land depicted on the map entitled Beaver County Land Conveyance and dated 20th March 8th, 2025. B. The City of St. George, Utah with re. Respect to covered land depicted on the map entity. TLED City of St. George, Utah, land convey. And
Guess it makes
and
sense
dated
that the
March
video game
28th,
Fallout ends with
2025.
a
C.
a nuclear
Washington County,
detonation.
Utah with re. Respect to covered land depicted on 1. The map
I'm gonna
entitled
call that
Washington. County Land
game.
Conveyance, East
Pause
Half
there.
End. Dated April 11th, 2025.
Page 682. I'd beaten the game. Oh, no way. There you go. Institute's gone. Game fades to black, and then I get credits, I guess. I think I've gotten credits maybe playing as the Institute, I think. Maybe. I don't actually recall I've ever gotten credits, I think.
I can feel it wash over me. The heat, force, radiation, fear. It's the end of the world all over again. I close my eyes and I see my life before all of this, before the bombs. Everything can change in an instant, and the future you plan for yourself shifts, whether or not you're ready. At some point, it happens to all of us. This wasn't the world I wanted, but it was the one I found myself in. Becoming my home, ripped apart and put back together. I hoped I could find my family, cheat time, make us whole again. The way we were. Now I know. I know I can't come back. I know the world has changed. But the road ahead will be harder. This time, I'm ready. Because I know war. War.
Never changes. Oh, he said the thing. John Fallout. He said the thing. Credits? Did I just beat this game? Did I just beat a Fallout run in like, I don't know, like no time at all? Preston, where is my son? My fake son? All right, so welcome back to the YouTube folks watching. It will be as if I never left. But for me in real life, I think it's been like either 5 days or a week since I beat Fallout 4 and made it to the late 600s in the Big Beautiful Bill Act document, which has once again passed the United States House of Representatives and is now on to the Senate. Then it would pass all of Congress collectively, and then it would end up on the president's desk. I remember researching for a moment that were this to pass, it would have to pass in a perfectly unchanged form, meaning every single policy to a T in this document, to the letter, will be exactly the same if it passes. So if we hear about this bill passing in the next month or two, it will be this exact copy of the bill. There's no way that they can rewrite an entire new one and get it revised through the House and the Senate. So right now, as of June 2nd, 2025, happy Pride Month, trans rights. As of this time period, June 2nd, 2025, this bill is making its way to the Senate to be voted on by the Senate, and were it to pass, again, it would go to the president's desk, and then it would be the executive branch's job to implement it into a law, to execute on that and make it law, and treat it as such. So that is what we are currently facing. Here is the premise. So in the previous streams, the kind of challenge / joke is that I'm speedrunning a game while listening to a very long government document that no one else would read under normal circumstance. And the point is, you know, if I beat the game, I get to take some time off of streaming and come back to it when I have more energy, which I did successfully do. Again, I cannot believe I beat Fallout 4 in like 18 hours, which so far I think the total number of hours for the stream itself has been more like 21. But now we are on page 676. I think I skipped like 10 or 15 pages of stuff that I kind of read at the very end, but I didn't memorize very well. I'm going to start in a new section, and here's the breakdown for how this is going to go. Today, as you can see, I am playing The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Not many people might know this, but I am a big Nintendo fan. I like Nintendo video games. I've played Nintendo consoles for like my entire life. I love these games dearly. With that in mind, I will go ahead and start the document, and I will start Zelda 2. New game. Here we go.
Discovered federal. Land through a competitive bidding
Link,
process
wake
under
up, Link.
Subsection.
Hey, shout out the
has agreed to comply with
the new Legend of Zelda series or movie that they're coming out with. They're considering a trans actor to play Zelda, and she looks exactly like fucking Zelda. She looks exactly like Zelda. She looks like a mix of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword Zelda, kind of flawlessly. And frankly, I never gave a shit if she was trans, and also I didn't notice because she passes just too fucking well.
All request of a state or local governmental entity and subject to valid existing rights. The secretary shall make the additional federal land available at less than fair market value for affordable housing.
Hey, you know, I don't even...
With Section
This
7
happens sometimes in this document where I'm like,
Southern
yeah, that's
Nevada
good.
Public
I like that.
Land Management Act of 1998.
I don't think it's too wrong
Public
to
Law
use
105.
available lands that don't have a lot of existing biodiversity on them to develop them into affordable housing. I'm all about that. I just know that according to this document, they would most likely, they haven't said it yet, but they would most likely make the building contractors a super private company to help them make as much money as possible.
4. Map unfiled, the maps and legal da. Descriptions finalized under paragraph 1 shall
So again,
be
they're just talking about
kept on
what to do
file
with
and
federal
available
lands.
for public inspection.
I don't know, if you,
Each appropriate
depending on
office
what
of the
federal lands
Bureau of
means, which
Land
I'm not an expert on,
Agement. H.
This game is
Rule
so
of
peak, sorry.
construction. Nothing in this.
this game is just so
SEC.
peak.
Tie-in shall be construed
I,
as
when they say
authorizing
federal
the
lands, like, there's no way that they mean,
Any
like,
lands
national parks.
administered by the National Park
Oh,
Service.
oh, no.
1.
Oh, no!
Definitions.
Rule of construction. Nothing in this section shall be construed as authorizing the conveyance of any land administered by the National Park Service. So those are all the places that they're promising not to touch. Title IX, which is 9, I think. But Title 9 has another meaning federally, but whatever.
5. The average pay to be used shall be.
Do you know
except as
one of the
provided under
things
clause
that
2,
makes me
the largest annual rate
exceptionally
resulting from
out of
averaging
touch
the
with old
individual's
people?
rates of basic pay
I have zero
effective
intention of
over
retiring.
any 3 consecutive years of creditable service or
And by that I mean I intend to
in the case
die
of an
before
annuity
having to
based
need
on
retirement
service
money.
years
I don't get a
over
lot of
the
this whole
total
Social
periods
Security
of
crap. Like, I don't really get it.
divided
I don't really get
with
caring
each
about it.
rate
Like, if I live long
period
enough
it
to be
was
able to
in
use
effect.
my Social Security, I'll just be happy to have
2.
lived that long. At-will employment, I hate the phrase at-will employment. At-will employment means they can fire you without cause for any reason. It also means you can quit without cause for any reason, but we all know that businesses can blacklist you, and you can lose credentials and licenses for quitting without notice. At-will employment is stupid. There's no real contract. It's like the anti-union concept. Like, no, you get no contract with your employer. Like, you don't even get a real employee contract. Election for at-will employment and lower FERS contribution for new federal civil service hires. I agree with more freedom to determine how much money you contribute to the retirement system. I don't know why a normal person would ever be chill with at-will.
Under subsection A1.
So they can't force you to be at-will.
1, be considered an at-will employee, and 2,
may be subject to an adverse action up to including removal without notice or rights to appeal. Why would you ever be at will? I hate right to work. I hate at will employment. Right to work and at will employment are the same thing.
Bad cause or no cause at all.
No cause at all. Why would you? Why? What is the point of this?
Standing any other requirement.
They just like doing dumb shit.
Shall not be construed to reduce.
Oh, so are they saying that if you're at will, you don't have to contribute to the retirement system? The applicable percentage under this paragraph for civilian service by an individual who elects not to be employed on an at-will basis shall be equal to the percentage required under paragraph C, increased by 5 percentage points. Oh! If you choose not to be at will, if you choose, damn, this is so hard to say. If you choose to be a normal contract government employee, you have to pay 5% more into your retirement plan, meaning they're disincentivizing normal people with bills to pay. They're disincentivizing those people to be contract, making them easier to fire, but generating less for the retirement system, thereby fucking over everyone who doesn't elect. Bad? I think bad. I mean, it's obvious that this is an attempt to encourage people to go crazy and be at will.
Add a member of family with respect to the enrollee to a health benefits plan under the program, and 2.
So continuing to make it harder for people to access their actual health benefits?
To add a member of family
that's very...
with respect to the enrollee to the health.
The reason Luigi Mangione shot that dude, the entire existence of health benefit plans and insurance providers,
the individual
scum of the fucking earth.
Member of marriage certificates.
God, yeah, they're just going to make it way harder to let your family members, your kids, your spouses access healthcare. They just don't want you to access healthcare. Nobody gets free healthcare in America. That's not American. No one deserves healthcare in America, except soldiers. Super believe in government subsidization of healthcare when it's soldiers. Everyone else, though, not important. Okay, millions and millions and millions of dollars to help the federal government make sure federal employees can't access the healthcare they paid for. Love it. Love it. I'm pretty sure it's referring to family members and dependents. Still, go fuck yourself. People should be able to access healthcare. Y'all suck.
0.2%.
I'm gonna get this frog. I'm gonna get this frog. Okay.
Transportation and infrastructure.
I need to get more grasshoppers for that one quest. I remember there's a quest that makes me go grab. Oh yeah, this thing's gonna hit me really hard, isn't it?
The maritime border and interdict me.
Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Coast Guard assets necessary to secure.
Tie-in, sustainment, improvement, and operation of United States Coast Guard assets, in addition to amounts other.
To secure the maritime border and interdict.
There is appropriated
migrants and drugs.
The Coast Guard for such.
What is a polar security? I have to Google what a cutter is.
For fast response cutters. 6
cutter.
for $1,300 million for polar security cutters.
It's a
and spare
it's a boat,
and
right?
Program management for such.
A cutter is
cutters.
A boat, right?
7,
ice break. See, that's what I thought it meant. Yeah, these are all ice breaking vessels, I guess. I don't know. Am I high? Am I chill? Like the Coast Guard are just more cops, right? Just more. They're half military, half cops. Like it's not like I personally love that. I guess the Coast Guard helps with a lot of emergencies on the sea, so I guess that's good. right? Just
planning,
like cops
engineering,
technically respond to a
construction
lot of
and
emergencies. They're just usually
Grant
late
management
and
for
then end up shooting
enlisted
people.
boot camp or a national security cutter.
Again,
See
it sucks because there are so many of my
not
fellow
more than
autistic people that like
15% of them.
love big,
Amounts provided in paragraph 9
big
of
machinery
subsection
and think it's
A
like
shall
cool as hell,
be available for design,
but then it's just
planning,
used for
and
warfare.
engineering.
Repeal of funding for alternative fuel and low emission aviation technology program. Huh? Aviation?
To carry out section 177 of
Repeal of funding
Title
for neighborhood access
23
and equity grants.
United States Code
Fuck your
has an
neighborhood.
effect on them.
Fuck your
Day
families.
before the date of enactment of this act
Have more
are
kids.
permanent, never rescinded.
Fuck your neighborhood. Fuck your
C,
families. Fuck your
repeal of
retirement.
funding for federal building.
$150 billion
Assistance
for the
to
military.
unobligated
You should be
balances
having
from
more
month
kids.
to May. Available to
Sure,
carry out
sounds
section
friendly.
6050
Sounds like a great place to
of
have kids.
Public Law 1.
So, Internal Revenue Code of 1986, this must be how the IRS gathers taxes at a federal level. Rate changes. Subtitle A, Make American Workers Thrive Again. 2018 through 2025. That was Trump's tax policy, which we had been under. Like, during most of the Biden era, we were under Trump's tax policy. And now they're going to change it to essentially take his previous tax stuff and have it just say beginning after 2017 without an end date in sight. Which, I wish I could do this stream with like a lawyer, politically, legally. Is it normal to just say starting now until forever as one president? Like, is that normal and legal? Is that like a thing you're allowed to do from the federal level? Just be like, I want this. Obviously, I guess this entire bill is something coming out of the collective of Congress at the federal level. But like, is it normal to just be like, hey, let's do this one thing forever? Is that normal? Okay, so I guess one of the first things I should do is I should remind myself how the current federal tax brackets work. In the case of any taxable year, inflation adjustment, any taxable year solely for purpose of determining the dollar amounts at which the 35% tax rate, holy fuck, ends and the 37% tax rate begins. For context, I'm on the IRS website. The 35% tax rate is a household income of $243,000 or more, and the 37% tax rate is $600,000 or more. That is not American families. That's like literally 5% of the country, maybe.
Under paragraph 2B shall be increased by $1,500.
So you're gonna...
2. The dollar amount otherwise.
So you're gonna save every individual that is filing federal taxes $1,500, but collectively, you're gonna spend another $150 billion across all of us. Have I done this math alone? 1 second. Have I done this math yet? There's 330 million people. If they want to spend... Oh, you know what? I should Google the population of the U.S. I don't know it anymore. What is the current population of the U.S.? Okay, so let's just look at the amount they spent on the damn military. I have typed into my phone, divided by 340 million. What? They're increasing the military budget by 150 billion, which if you were to divide that by every single living person in the United States, that alone would be the functional increase in $441 per year of spending. Either a third or a half of the amount they're promising to save you on taxes, they're just taking more to pay for the military. This is such bullshit. This is classic Republican right wing. I don't actually understand economics of scale trickery and tomfoolery, where they're like, oh, we're gonna like save you tax dollars on healthcare, but your cost of healthcare is actually a lot higher under a private system than if we did universal healthcare. But like, it feels like we're saving you money though, and it just, people just don't. I don't know. They're just susceptible to propaganda. You can promise a $1,500 a cut to a person's fucking taxes. So let's say that the deduction happens. If I remember how the deduction works, it's how much you can take away from how much you owe. So my fiance would now get back $500. That's about the amount of money they're spending to increase the military budget. Mind you, for the 1000th time, this is not, the military was $0 before this bill. The military budget was already 800 billion something. I'm pretty sure it was in the 800 billions. And now they're going to increase it to by another 150 billion. And if you were to divide that by every person in the entire United States, including babies and children and people that don't pay taxes on income anymore, or yet, somehow, you're still costing people about $500 a piece in cost of military. You're not, those funds aren't coming from nowhere. That is either going to the national debt, which will be something the taxpayer has to pay, or you're going to generate it soon, meaning we will still ultimately pay that. This is the classic moving of the goalposts, where you say, like, hey, we're saving you money here, but in these more complicated, harder to see ways, you're definitely still paying more. And that more is going to the government and the billionaires and the oligarchy itself. Literally, the military-industrial complex oligarchy itself. Hundreds of billions. These taxes mean nothing in the face of the amount of money you just spent on the military. There you go, I can make the gameplay larger.
C3.
All right, that sounded super interesting. Extension of increased estate and gift tax exemptions. So estate tax is a tax on money that you gift to your children or anyone after your death, essentially. That's people creating generational wealth, but like at an insane degree. You know, money that children didn't generate. Gift tax, however, the gift tax is a fucking problem. I'm not even that up to date on tax stuff, and I understand that, like, by making something a gift, you can get around having it taxed instead of, right? And so, like, this is what fucking billionaires do all the time. Like, this is probably, obviously this is a foreign country, but like, this is the shit, like with getting the fucking jet that Trump got or whatever. You're just moving money around in a way that shouldn't be okay. Like, oh, these are all previous Trump tax policies that are being extended and brought into the modern time, or maintained through, you know, after 2026. Reducing a person's access to certain deductions, so the termination of miscellaneous itemized deductions, limitation on tax benefit of itemized deductions, limitation on tax benefit of itemized deductions again, as exceeds the dollar amount at which 37%, it's a reduction in taxes for people that are above the 37% tax bracket or higher, which is the $600,000 people. Reduction in taxes for the wealthiest people, not for the poor people. Or even the middle class people. I don't listen. Listen, I love to cast a big net and have a big umbrella, but if you make more than $600,000, you are not middle class, my guy. You are not most of us. Most of us are like the 15% tax bracket. I think it's the majority of Americans are 15 and below. The qualified, all I can imagine is they're fucking over bicyclists. Termination of qualified bicycle commuting reimbursement exclusion. God, that's like 3 double negatives. Termination of qualified bicycle commuting. Yeah, so Trump's previous tax cuts suspended the exclusion of qualified bicycle commuting reimbursement. The exclusion of bicycle commuting reimbursements from income tax. Okay, it's fucking over people that ride bikes. Yes, I figured it out. Are those endurance rooms? Oh, huge. What a huge fine. Oh, it's one of those. And who cares? I can probably find one of those by hand if I have to. Really not that hard, honestly. Okay, so tips are a part of a waiter's taxable income. No tax on tips would make those service workers make more money. I actually think this is a fire idea. I also think we should just abolish tipping. You should just pay your employees a livable wage. Everyone knows. Not everyone. Young people probably don't know because it's their first job. My first job was at a Cracker Barrel Old Country store, which is a absolutely garbage place that is exactly as bad as all the others. I was a waiter. I made tips. I don't know, people always talked about how people never reported their tips to avoid taxing. Here's the thing. If I remember, my hourly wage was like $4 or something, because the argument was that I could get up to the federal minimum wage of $7.25 in Ohio at the time through tips. And I do believe that when I did the math, I made about $15 an hour at that job with tips. The answer to this issue is to just pay your employees a fucking living wage. Tips aren't even worth discussing. Pay your employees a fucking living wage. Pay them a living wage and let them get tips if someone wants to give them. But do not make your employees depend on tips. It's just a business practice to extract more money out of your employees and pay them less.
102. No tax on overtime.
Okay, we're talking about no tax on overtime. Okay, let me understand this. Let me understand this, right? You're an hourly employee, meaning you can work overtime, and consequently you can be paid for overtime. Some increased amount. I'm not sure exactly what the standard is. I think I'm pretty used to hearing time and a half for overtime, but I don't know if there are laws determining that or if that's just what businesses have ended up on. I imagine there are laws that have made that the case, but I think it's usually time and a half. So if you work overtime at your job, you will not pay taxes on that overtime, whereas you do pay taxes on your normal 40-hour-a-week income. Meaning that this policy will incentivize people to work overtime. The issue being that all the businesses and bosses are just going to restrict people's access to overtime now. Like, that's what they're going to do, because there's going to be more competition for accessing overtime, because it makes the employee more money than their normal 40 hours a week. So guess what? All the employers are going to do in order to avoid paying more is they're just going to fucking make it harder. One, come on, you'd have to have never worked a real day in your life to believe that any employer, it's extremely out of touch to not realize that many employers offer overtime, but they don't want to fucking pay you the overtime. That's how they work. They don't want to actually pay that to employee compensation. That's losing money that they could buy another yacht with. It seems really out of touch to touch the topic of overtime, given that most of us people who have worked these jobs know that they specifically try to not have to pay overtime in the first place. They try to limit access to it, and you know, it's the thing of saying like, oh, we offer overtime, but in reality, it's deeply disincentivized to ever use it. The same thing with unlimited time off. Like, if you use more time off than the rest of your coworkers, they're just going to fire you because you work in an at-will state, and your employment isn't guaranteed. Silly peasant. Overtime isn't for you to make money. It's so we can make money. If too many of you use overtime, we'll start losing money because we compensate you. We're not supposed to compensate you. The purpose of a job is for you to be a wage slave until you die. It's not to make money and live your life. Silly peasant. Yeah, it just seems really out of touch with like the reality of how this shit works. No tax on car loan interest. Let me understand. If you paid off car loan interest throughout the year with your income, because that's how you pay things off, that money, however much car loan interest you paid off, gets to be deducted from your taxes. It stops being taxable income.
By rate, designating paragraph 4 as paragraph 5 and
I think that's peak.
Insert.
Not having to pay taxes on interest and death.
3. Refinanced
Okay, yeah, I should probably talk more intently about this policy. What do I think about the idea of reducing your taxable income if it goes to paying off your car loan? I think that is a very pro-car loan insurance policy and also a pro-middle class policy. Absolutely. Are these three things worth it? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on car debt. Are these things worth it if you lose democracy forever? Like, there's no way you're like, yeah, it's worth it. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not, bro. You know, or like, you know, think about how the economy is going to crash as migrant workers actually get taken out. The United States quality of life is garnished on the back of what is the word? Taking advantage of. I need to Google this. It's a word I've been trying to use a lot more. This whole document is just pro-exploitation in every way. Except it's not pro the exploitation of migrant workers, because it doesn't want migrants here at all. So instead, the U.S. needs to be exploiting normal middle-class people. When the migrant workers go, our grocery prices are going to go up like fucking crazy, because none of the farms will be able to get work. The U.S. middle class
respect to each
the upper
individual
middle
from
class
whom such interest
is
is
garnished
raised.
and
See that
supported
such
on the
time
exploitation of
as
migrant
secretary
workers
may
to literally
be
feed
form
labor for
and
our
manner
farms.
of the
It sounds
return
like some fucking Star Wars ass space
described in this
politics, but yeah,
subsection,
like migrant
such
workers
return.
pay work on
One
the farms
is in
that give
such
us food.
form, loan,
How
or such other
how much
description
good
of
do
such
these
vehicle,
policies do
as the
if ICE is
secretary
able
may
to wrongly,
prescribe
if
and
habeas corpus is
F.
revoked, and
such other
ICE is able to just
information as
randomly
the
pick you up off the
SEC
street and send you to a random
clearly
country?
may prescribe.
Like, is it really worth it that you're not paying
These
taxes on your
statements
car
shall
loan?
be furnished
Or
to
that your
the
tips don't get taxed? You don't even,
Mules
like,
with
how many of these
respect
upper
to
middle class
information
freaking,
is
these
required.
old people that
Every
voted for
person
Trump, how
required
many
to
of
make
them
a
work
return.
jobs where they rely on tips?
Subsection
Like, fuck
A.
off. It's a tax credit for businesses that'll save them money for providing their employees with childcare. I don't know, it sounds okay. I don't think the percentage of employers that actually provide childcare is big at all. I imagine this is an exceptionally small number of businesses. If the policy isn't making childcare universal and subsidized like Medicare for all, we should have childcare for all, then I don't want it. Because it's always the better option to subsidize the damn childcare. Like, cool, I'm down with it. Not good enough, fucking at all. And in fact, in a way, it's just going to help the businesses and the childcare facilities make money, when instead, it should be about efficiently using that money to make sure that families have access to childcare so that way they can work and ever consider having kids in the first place. The most concise take on private childcare businesses. Following a capitalist logic, the purpose of a business is to generate revenue for the shareholders. That's the purpose of a corporation. It is to generate revenue for the shareholders. Okay? That is the raison d'etre of a business. It is to make money. I am never having children. I could not imagine having a child that I love dearly and more than anything I could not imagine having a child, little baby, 2, 3 years old. 4, I think maybe a lot of kids start daycare like 3 and 4 years old, I think. I could not imagine giving my kid to because here's the thing, there are a lot of great childcare workers, like actual people who do the daycare attending. Those are awesome fucking workers, but they're not being compensated or trained as well as they could be if the profit motive was fucking removed. And instead the money went into making sure that these childcare providers are highly educated, highly qualified, and that the infrastructure of the childcare facilities is deeply accommodating of emergencies and risks, and it's clean, and it's safe, and it's efficacious, and it's good for the child's development. I could never trust my child. And I understand. Here's the issue. Here's why this is a problem. Private childcare businesses existing at all. Here's why it's a problem. You have to put your kid in childcare because you have to work a job to survive in the current economy. So there's this sort of exchange where, like, this thing is mandatory for life. Childcare is mandatory for life in your family because both parents have to work to survive. You're forced, you're effectively forced by circumstance to pay for childcare, but you cannot trust that childcare is focused more on your child's well-being than it is on generating profit for the business owner. That's the most evil catch-22 I've ever fucking heard of. You and everyone, a lot of people already know this in their adult life, that you have to work to afford to live, to afford to work. You have to work to afford the childcare, to afford the time that it is to work, to afford the childcare, to afford the free time that you need to work, to afford the childcare, in this endless cycle where you have to access childcare to raise your family, and you have to put your child with some private fucking corporation whose main goal is to make money. Fuck that. No. Why is society doing bad? Because you can't raise kids like that. Because families can't afford to raise their kids personally, and then when they're sending them to childcare facilities, do you know how many fucking news articles there are of crazy shit happening in childcare where kids are getting bones broken and they're constantly getting sick, which to some degree is healthy and normal, and then they're just being neglected and they're coming back from daycare with trauma. Like, that's not like you know what? I'm going to pause and use my own logic for a second. Typically, you remember things that are the outlier. I am sure that there are good childcare facilities. I am sure. But this is not the kind of thing, of all things, childcare is not the kind of thing where you're like, I'm okay with it just being as it is. No, it needs to be as close to perfect as possible because it is childcare. Man, it's crazy. I'm so against having children, but I care so fucking deeply about other people's ability to have their children cared for. I'm a teacher. I care about children's well-being. Like, no, a tax credit that saves your job money on helping you get your kid to childcare is trash in comparison to just doing federally subsidized universal free childcare for all.
The grouping of employees.
So then, what do I really think about this policy functionally?
Treatment of benefits
Again, I think it's actually a
mandated
pretty pro-middle class
paid for by
policy for once,
state
man.
or local governments.
Like, listen,
For
it can't be possible that
purposes of this
every
section,
single Republican
any
is a
leave
total
which is
fucking
paid
idiot,
by a state or
such that
local
they'd fuck
government
over
or
all of their
required by
constituents and make it so they
state
never
or
get elected again. There's no
local
way they'd be
law.
that stupid.
A,
But the
except as
issue is
provided
that in
subparagraph
pursuit of making these policies
B,
happen,
shall be taken into
which could
account
totally
in
just happen under
determining
Democrats,
the amount of
in
paid
pursuit of making these
family
policies
and medical
happen,
leave
they're risking
provided by the
fascism.
employer, and
The meaningful,
B, shall
substantive,
not be
defensible
taken into
rise of
account in
actual
death.
fascism.
terminating
10% of your income tax write-off? So if you're a billionaire and you just throw 10% of your income, so you just get to write off 10% of your income by throwing it to your charter school private education buddies? Jesus Christ. So yeah, as long as they're willing to give scholarships to kids whose families make less than $300,000 a year, it's still legit. That's still a pretty fucking rich family at that point. Is eligible to enroll in a public elementary or secondary school. Oh, so it has to be someone who already could go to. So is that inferring that it has to specifically... Holy shit, they've added a section to make absolutely certain it only takes money from public schools. So for some reason, you can't donate to a charter that isn't already public school children. Which I don't even know why they need to clarify that, because damn near every damn kid on the fucking planet can go to public school. Through generous donations. Yes. Generous donations is crazy. Required distribution amount. 100% of the total receipts from the scholarships granting organization for such taxable year, so it has to be a nonprofit, reduced by the sum of each receipt that retained, increased by the carryover, safe harbor for reasonable administrative. So the nonprofits need to make a little bit of a profit, effectively, administrative costs, as they call them, off of the contributions that they're going to get. So it's going to make the nonprofit orgs a bunch of profit. It's going to allow the private and charter schools to scalp money effectively. Homeschool expenses treated as qualified higher education expenses. Yeah, so it's going to help more families put their kids in a private school by letting their 529, which is an educational expense account, which I believe is a tax advantage, so it lets you pay taxes differently. It's going to let different costs for these private schooling costs count as into those accounts. 9, MAGA account. A MAGA account shall be exempt from taxation under this subtitle. Notwithstanding the preceding sentence, such account shall be subject to the taxes imposed by Section 511. For the purpose of this section, in general, the term money account for growth and advancement, means a trust created or organized in the United States for the benefit of an individual, which is designated at the time of the establishment of the trust as a MAGA account, but only if the writing governing instrument creating the trust meets the following requirements. Oh, using some of the federal money to help people furnish their first use of this account. What do I really think about this policy? I don't know. It's a trust fund. Most normal people probably aren't going to be able to take advantage of this. They don't have the excess money. Most kids are going to college on student loans because their family doesn't magically have money to put away like this. So this helps upper middle class people continue being upper middle class, pulling up the ladder. Oh, we're starting a new part. Investing in the health of American families and workers. My head is starting to hurt. All right, so update for the YouTube people. Once again, time has passed in real life, but you won't notice it. So I finally realized, and it's because I had started noticing a discrepancy between language I had been hearing in real life, like outside of the document, and language that was in my document. So this was my greatest, most deepest fear, is that I might at some point in one of these challenges have an out-of-date document that has been changed slightly. So for the rest of the day, we're going to be reading the most up-to-date official final copy of it, which I think is a May 22nd copy of it. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the amendments document, and we're just going to understand every single change made and use that to just reflush what we have learned. I'm just going to scroll through it manually. So they just changed it. What is it? Money and growth account to a Trump account. So that's that child account now. Okay, more stuff about the Natural Gas Act. So it looks like they clarified some language as it connects to, it's going to limit the ability of the government to subsidize plans that cover abortion at all. Whoa, that's fucked. Dollar amount, 237, so the lesser than, taxpayers itemized deductions. These are more tax stuff, so they're just clarifying more tax language for some of the tax stuff I read earlier. I don't know what happened. I think, now that I think about it, I think I might have, like, downloaded the document to read as early as the 20th, and I didn't, like, expect it to be amended in one day. And then I started streaming on the 25th. So I didn't think to fucking check it. Okay, so new habit. When we do these documents, the day of the stream, just go straight to re-downloading it. I clearly didn't expect that. So that's my mistake on my part. We have now read through all the changes for anything we read previously, and now we can know what those changes are. It looks like it was just expediting permitting, and establishing that weird $100 million thing for the Department of Budget or whatever to look really hard at, like, the Department of Education for some reason. That was kind of weird. And then certain services excluded from the treatment of primary care services. Is it because they're, like, saying, like, primary care providers, like your doctor, they just do checkups, man. Preventative care. Yeah, no anesthesia. Great. So that means people are going to have to do shit without anesthesia. Prescription drugs. How the fuck does that not count as primary care? Here's the dystopia, all right? If you're going to be doing this whole subsidizing employer-owned healthcare facilities, how is that not clearly 2 steps away from, like, how far are we from, like, the old factory town idea where you will own nothing? Your healthcare will be through your employer. The doctor will specifically deny you care that you actually need to save the healthcare, to save your employer money. The employer will own your house. They'll own your local bar. They'll own your healthcare. They'll own your grocery store, and you'll only use their Trump cryptocurrency credits. Like, I know that that's being exaggeratory, but, like, pause for a second. When I was a kid, if someone had described a future where a giant tech, like, oligarch designs targeting systems for, like, missiles and drones, and also identification systems that scrape the internet to do facial recognition paired with behavior analysis to determine a person's likelihood of being what the state considers a terrorist. If you told me that, I'd be like, well, that's stupidly fucking far-fetched and stupid. That's not happening. But that's Palantir. Like, that's why I made that video, because, like, that's the only way I can understand that reality is it's reality that's so real it wrapped back around to see me like it's unreal, but it's reality. You should check out my video about Palantir if you haven't. I'm really proud of that video. Yeah, I might be saying right now, like, ooh, employer-owned healthcare facilities. Ooh, that's like, that just sounds dystopian. I don't know, man. You know, like, is it alarmism, or is it just like, hey, what is the pattern right now? Every time we say, oh, that sounds dystopian, but don't worry about it, it promptly happens in real life. If this happens, I can't wait to hear, and I'm sure these already exist. Employer-owned healthcare facilities already exist. For example, if you work for Kaiser Permanente, you probably have a healthcare plan through Kaiser Permanente. Your healthcare is owned by your employer. Your employer is your healthcare. But then, like, expand that to bigger shit, right? Imagine, like, Google and Amazon and Apple. Okay, so I feel like you can definitely see what I'm saying with Apple, right? I'm sorry, not Apple, Amazon. Like, an Amazon-owned healthcare facility. You know, like, that's not a real sprain. And they've just hired the doctor to like lie. Like, hey, this is a stress-caused injury due to overwork and poor work quality experiences. That's why we're forming a union. And then the doctor's like, no, it's not. But that's like the only healthcare you have access to because you can only get it through your employer. Or you can only afford it personally through your employer. Which, again, there's so much of this logic in the right where it's just like, we're not, technically speaking, they aren't fundamentally opposed to the concept of healthcare. They're just against the concept of you accessing healthcare that they have not determined that you deserve. So they don't believe a human deserves healthcare. They don't believe healthcare is a fundamental human right. One second. Unfortunately, they're getting into something that is once again important. So certain amounts paid for physical activity, fitness, and exercise treated as amounts paid for medical care. Okay, so I'm not judging it. I'm just curious and confused. Fitness, wiener, never mind. In general, the term qualified sports and fitness expenses means... Sorry, no, I'm thinking of the meme. Why would you tell me that? Okay, fitness. In general, the term qualified sports and fitness expenses means amounts paid exclusively for the sole purpose of participating in physical activity. Membership at a fitness facility, so the rec center I'm at, or just under, like, even your private insurance plan. Like, what does this mean? Health savings account. So these are all things that allow you to use money from your health savings account for new things. I agree with health savings account money being allowed to be used for frankly fucking everything. I agree. Cool. There's been a lot of agreeing in this section. You can't fucking deny it. You can hate, I can and do hate the fascism. And there's some weird deregulation shit in here that's really fucking bad. Is any of this justified? When literally a couple hundred pages before, they want to increase the military budget $150 billion. Is it worth it? It's $150 billion, and the flagship policy of this entire document is that Trump is going to give. Oh yeah, it's not. I mean, obviously, like Trump didn't personally write this at all. There was a sponsor to the bill, and then I imagine like a bunch of people got legal consultation, and a bunch of representatives and maybe senators probably wrote this on the right. I think it's insane to make this bill this long. Stupid as fuck. Even our founding documents are exceptionally short in comparison, and they do a lot of work while being short. To some degree, the reason this document is so long is because in order to not instantly get nuked legally from orbit by basic lawyers, they have to have all this legal jargon where it's like, oh, this is going to start here and it's going to happen here and we're going to amend this federal law by adding in this and that. There's a lot of this crap in it, which frankly is not fun to read. J. Limitation on business interests. The amount allowed as a deduction under this chapter for any taxable year for business interest shall not exceed a certain sum, the business interest income of such taxpayer for such taxable year. Whoa, the entire document focuses really hard on disincentivizing doing anything overseas, but it just dropped the tax to make income from overseas? Oh, but for some reason this particular policy affects corporations. So small businesses, individual Americans, medium-sized businesses all need to fuck off and figure out how to never talk to another country ever. But the giant businesses that paid for Trump to get in office in the first place, they get a couple of percentages off the top.
Is otherwise in effect under paragraph.
I knew that formally a lot of the tax-related stuff was in the later portion of the document, the part that technically really is the big beautiful bill. But this final part is taking just as long as the previous 600 pages. Genuinely. It is kind of like a 1,200-page document, so I guess it's pretty much halfway, but this whole section feels way more dense. Okay, so businesses that are building and using stuff in these areas get special tax treatment. Previously, they had to be of a certain economic income based on the census, an average economic income based on the census. They're going to make it so it doesn't have to be as poor of a place. It can be a higher income area. Okay, so they're more, you know, hey, the government will give you lighter taxes if you invest here because we think it's a good place to invest.
Seeks.
Monoxide and dioxide is what that means? I think. I think restricting carbon monoxide is generally a good idea. Either this is a misspell or they just mean all carbon oxides, which are carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide alike. And I'm sure, I mean, carbon monoxide is constantly produced at all times due to combustion, and I believe it decays in nature over time. Okay, so let's cosplay for a moment. Let's try to understand the kind of gaslighting that the right would do to explain how this helps the working class. They're going to say that by reducing competition, the oil and gas lobby is going to get cheaper? Isn't this antithetical to their entire thing? Like their entire thing. Oh, these things aren't attacking me because of the mask, like genuinely. Okay, what is their logic that, like, the corrupt clean energy lobby is? Which it is. There's a lot of monopolization in the entirety of the whole, like, tech bro, clean, renewable space. There's a lot of capitalism going on. But, I mean, to acknowledge that would be to say that, would be to acknowledge that capitalism itself and these monopolistic behaviors and all that comes with it are bad, while being massively in favor of the oil and gas lobby. Someone explain. Phase out and restrictions on the advanced manufacturing production credit. I thought this was about making a better America and, like, all this shit about building things better and bringing manufacturing back, and that's how you're gonna act? Oh, it's terminating credits for advanced manufacturing if it's manufacturing for anything related to sustainability. Oh. Man, that tracks. That's like evil. See, this is not helping the case with, like, radical environmentalists. This is like ecological collapse. There's no, like, really debating it. Okay, so let me understand the specific effect. So the termination of a clean vehicle tax credit, so they're just ending it. So, like, when they say credit, do they just not want to say tax credit? No, these are very, very clearly tax credits. How is the first way to help lower income families? How is the first thing to help them to increase their taxes? Okay, but no, I need, like, a full and fleshed out explanation. Tell me how you help working families by making it more expensive to access the type of vehicle that costs them less in gas. Like, I know, I get it. They're just oligarchs that want to help the oil and gas lobby because they pay them billions. But, like, so for 2026, with respect to any vehicle placed in service after 2025, such vehicle shall not be treated as a new clean vehicle if during the period of 2009 to 2025, the number of covered vehicles manufactured by the manufacturer which are sold for use in the U.S. is greater than 200,000. I'm not following. I actually really don't understand this. So, a covered vehicle, which would have been one that receives a tax credit, would have to be a vehicle that's sold by a manufacturer in the U.S. New vehicle shall not be treated as a new vehicle if during the period. Holy shit, none of these credits, none of these changes actually help anyone. Insane behavior. The only people this helps is the oil and gas lobby. Doesn't do much in the face of a $150 billion increase to military spending. It just doesn't do much. But then, yeah, you take away, you know, a $75 bajillion frickin' a $7,500 I think it was actually 35. I don't know, a couple $1,000 credit for getting an EV. Then, like, Yeah, how many houses are specifically investing in electric cars right now to save money on gas and 5 other things like maintenance? I really don't know how I feel about the whole like, oh, you can deduct taxes if you give to a nonprofit. Actually, here's what I think. I think the entire nonprofit system and charitable organizations system, the way it is regulated, is extremely corrupt, and in effect, most of the corporations that are using this rule are not actually giving to a local fucking library. They're giving it to their buddies and other things that they politically benefit from investing in. Electronic transfer of money sent by consumer to a recipient in a foreign country. Oh, they're fucking over that thing that so many immigrants rely on to help fund their families. Man, so every time they try to send money back to their family, which is like prototypically American as hell, they're gonna fuck you over now? That's like such an important American story. It's like, oh, I'm working here and sending money back to my family. Now that's a fucked up tax. Like, that's personally gonna affect people in a real way. Like, that's fucked up. Whoa! How the hell did I do that?
And inserting the following health plan dot.
This is good news. I can finally be a bee.
2, by adding at the end the following new clause. 2, PRE enrollment verification. Process required
the lowest
such
possible.
term shall not
Hilarious.
include any plan enrolled in through an exchange unless such exchange provides a process for pre-enrollment verification through which any applicant may begin not later than August 1st verify with the
Can we talk about how like it's one thing to not provide universal health care even though the government is absolutely capable of it. It's another thing to withhold health care from people who may or may not be citizens. It's another thing to withhold that health care because you could literally effectively kill them. There's a reason that guy shot that CEO. There's like a reason. Because withholding health care is a form of violence. Like, I don't want to live in a world where we don't recognize that withholding health care from people that can't afford it. This isn't even an issue of using taxes to fund it. This is an issue of, like, it's already private health care that a person will pay for and will have money for. Withholding their access to that is a form of violence. Withholding doctors that you can afford is a form of violence, and I refuse a universe where we don't call it that. Here's, like, one of the best ways that I like to go about describing, like, when I say, like, oh, such and such is violence, even though it's systemic, right? Like, the simple reality is that if your government withheld the ability of your mother who has cancer, which isn't hyperbolic, my mother has had cancer, two of my sisters have had cancer, my mom had cancer when I was a little kid. If your mother happened to be a category of person that the government had determined is ineligible, she's an illegal alien, doesn't really change that she's your fucking mom, does she? If it were your mother or your loved one, and you had the money to afford a healthcare plan, but because of one of your identity characteristics that the government has deemed illegal, being from a different country, whether you had to flee or whether you just happened to be, and you need healthcare, and your family member is facing death, and they are disallowed access to healthcare that they can't afford and have money for, you would lose your fucking mind. You would probably... And then I'm not encouraging this, but I'm saying that if it were someone you cared about that were at the hands of this, you would have a violent impulse rise within you to do anything and everything possible to resist that outcome, the death of your loved one, even though they could afford healthcare. So when I try to communicate the ways in which that systemic policy that directly brings harm to people in a physical way, when I say that that is violence, the way that I measure that is the reaction of the people being subjected to it. If it's commonly agreeable that the response to the treatment would invoke a violent impulse for self-defense in a person, then the trigger is violent. That's how you know. It's intuitive to the person. If it were my mother and that were my government, I would go apeshit trying to fuck over the government. It's simple as that. Maybe I would use violence. Like, really, like, lock me in the room, lock you in the room, lock you in the room with, like, the one person that made that policy while time ticks down for the people you love. No cameras. I think you would try to box them. I think you would try to fight. Like, it would bring about a violent impulse in a person. I'm not saying that that's an agreeable thing. In fact, I think that the violence is the problem. But the interesting thing about violence and human psychology is that you can tell how bad something is by the way that a person would typically respond to it. And I think most people agree that if you could get them alone in a room with the people that voted for these policies, they would probably try to box them. I don't think they should. I think violence is bad. And the notable thing is who the fuck started it. It is the government. Before this passes, it has not passed yet. It needs to pass the Senate and get to Trump's desk first. If this were to pass, and that were your mom, or your dad, or your little sister, or little brother, or your sibling, or your lover, and they happen to be this category of person. Like, I get it. There are going to be these legalists and racists and xenophobes that are going to, I'm not saying those are all the same person. Those are all three categories of people that sometimes overlap. There are going to be people who are going to be like, but they're an illegal alien, they shouldn't be able to access healthcare. Oh, okay. One, that you just sound like you're a bad fucking person. You just sound violent. That sounds like violence. Like, I want to withhold healthcare from people that can afford it. Okay, Jesus Christ. That aside, even if the human characteristic is that the person is an illegal immigrant, it's still your fucking little sister or brother or mother or lover or dad. Like, you don't give a fuck. That doesn't matter to you in the moment. And so this is where the libertarian, the anarcho people all agree. Like, no. Being told that a person can't access healthcare because they are a thing that the government has deemed illegal is violence. And if I got you in a room while it was your family suffering, if I got you in a room with the motherfucker that wrote that policy, do not tell me that it would not occur to you to slap that person or punch that person. Or far worse. I am not trying to hype up the violence. I'm trying to point out that what that person did through policy, through legislation, through law, through political action, what that person did, in your mind, is no different than violence. Because it is. Because violence is more than what we were taught as children. As a concept in society, violence is the direct cause of harm by one person to another or one group to another. That is what violence is. The direct causing of intentional harm, malicious harm, right? Like, you can't really describe it as violence when shit's an accident. It's gore, it's harm, it's trauma to the body, trauma to the mind. But it becomes violence when it is intentional. It becomes abuse over time, which realistically abuse should be a word that's considered even worse than violence because it's violence over a period of time. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, you lock a person in the room whose family is being harmed by these policies, and even though that person has not physically hurt their loved ones, it would be a completely normal and understandable, even socially acceptable response for that person to take a survey that says, are you feeling violent thoughts towards this person? And they were to like check yes. Now, if they act on them, it's a different conversation. But the important double standard is that we can't judge this hypothetical person because they didn't start it. It was the motherfucking politician that did the violence, that prevented their people, their mother, their lover, their whoever, their loved ones from accessing healthcare. How is that? If it calls upon a violent response for self-defense, that is because the thing that started it was violence. And yes, it does matter who started it. The government did. That's my little stupid fucking rant. I'll make a video on it one day, but that's how I understand systemic violence. That's when I woke up to the realization that, like, what healthcare providers do, what politicians do, what these people do that cause direct harm is violence. You know, because when it happens to you, you feel the need to defend yourself.
New, as amended by.
Income tax credit for Purple Heart. Oh my God, I have not heard a single pro-veteran policy in this entire document. Yeah, I don't even think there was better funding for the VA in the military section. I think it was improving military housing now. This is like the first pro-veteran policy, and it took 1,032 pages to mention veterans. It took 1,000 pages to mention guns. What about all these culture war topics that people care about? How are they such afterthoughts compared to the giving hundreds of billions of dollars to the military-industrial complex? All right. Final closing statements. I don't know. Final summaries of this document. What have I learned? Is this document Project 2025 in the flesh? It really isn't, actually. I actually think that is not a fair assertion. I think this document is the American Republican Party in a document. the Project 2025 document used language and policies that I would say the executive orders most recently are better capture. Whereas this document is like the entire economic disposition of the American right, of Republicans. And I think a few things really kind of like make that obvious. One, the entire document is obsessed with xenophobia, with limiting the rights of immigrants. The document is unbelievably subservient to the military-industrial complex and puts that $150 billion into the military while people starve. This document is obsessed with the private sector, using government programs to bolster the private sector. Instead of using government programs to directly help people, there's this bootstrap meritocratic thing where, you know, we're only going to improve your access to healthcare if you already could have afforded to have access in the first place. So there's this bait and switch for middle-class populism, where like they're promising you populism, but the policies they're going to use are only going to matter if you were already middle class, upper class already. So you're allowed to have things if we deem you wealthy enough to have the access to them in the first place. And then, yeah, you know, a lot of using existing systems, tax systems, all these things, it's like they would sooner use the existing system than ever possibly risk helping people directly or having the government do anything that actually helps people, while putting money into the military, while being extremely xenophobic, while having a lot of policies that prioritize the well-being of corporations over actual people. You know, again, the sheer amount of cucking to the oil and gas lobby is insane in this document. Like, it is batshit insane. The degree to which everything is so focused on the oil and gas lobby. There are some policies that in a vacuum could be good in this document. Absolutely. There are some reasonable tax policies and regulations on corporations and private institutions that could arguably be okay. I mean, obviously, like, I want no regulations on anything. I want no government at all. But talking about people's real lives, which on the ground matter a lot more, yeah, there are some policies that on paper are okay. None of them matter if they don't actually help working people. None of them matter if they are the lesser quality alternative to just actually having the government do things for people, while investing hundreds of billions of dollars into the military. None of these things matter. It doesn't matter that your uncle is a cop and not a bad person when everybody fucking else is a bad cop. They're all still bastards. It doesn't matter that your grandpa is a landlord and not a dick when everyone else is, right? The couple of exceptions to the problems with this document do not excuse or change the likely reality that these policies will hurt the middle class. They will bolster those that are already in power. They will help the military-industrial complex to an extraordinary degree. While apparently the national debt question. I am not an economist, and I'm sure all the capitalists are like, that was obvious. National debt. The U.S. national debt to me is a lot like nuclear war. In that, if something does happen, the entire country will catch the fuck on fire, and we won't live long to care. If other countries actually start calling the U.S. on our debt, it will cause a trade war and violent war that is nuclear war, likely. That is why I don't think investing in nuclear war makes any fucking sense. Because these problems are so big, and we live in such a hostile world of the opposite of collaboration, such that if other countries finally call us on the national debt, it'll be over anyway. Just like if we ever have to use our military, it'll be over anyway. Why the fuck do we put all that money into it? So, I don't really know what I say on the national debt. There are going to be a lot of people that make a lot of different arguments about how, like, it's hypocritical to raise the national debt ceiling. I'm sure it is. That isn't as actually relevant as how the money is being allocated. Not just that more money is being used Yes, I get it. The right loves to bitch about the national debt while themselves raising it by $4 trillion. I want you to understand that that is 4,000 times 1 billion. That is 1 billion times 4,000. So, this document is a xenophobic, anti-working and middle class, pro-oil and gas, pro-military document. And my argument as it stands is that all this document achieves for the middle class and the working class, which is, again, 90% of our population. That's you. All this document does for the working and middle class is move some numbers around while increasing the national debt by trillions of dollars and funneling a fuck ton of money into the hands of people that are already wealthy. There are also those random sections about making it illegal to regulate AI. Also, the section about allowing the federal government to disregard court injunctions as long as they aren't provided bail to just pay their way out of court injunctions. Yeah, it's not a zero-sum document. It's a bad fucking outcome. This is terrible. If this passes, it will be terrible. So, you heard it here last, folks, because everyone's already summarized this document with AI and used Control-F to read through the 4 sections that they thought would get a good headline. But here I am, having read the entire thing, and sometime soon, I may turn this into a 2-hour-long cinematic theater-length film, which if you have watched to the very end, thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it. Get subscribed to the Quiet Part YouTube channel. Share this with everyone you know. Get your mother a YouTube account. Have her comment down below. Share this with your grandma. Become a channel member if you want to support me directly. And keep reading. Keep reading. I don't like it either. But somebody has to, and it can't just be me. Continue saying the quiet part out loud because no one else will do it for you. Have a good day.